Is on. Where are the trades? And what about the San Francisco 49ers? Who will they select in round one? And could they be making a trade very soon to move up, maybe into the top 10 potentially? Here we go. We're going overtime, NFL draft style right now. All right. Welcome to OT with BP. Appreciate you all jumping on here in the live stream. I didn't want to start before the NFL draft even started because, to be honest, I didn't want to go live for like 4 hours. And someone's telling me my mic setting's not the same as it was earlier today. Podcasted 5 times today. All right, there we go. Mic should be on. And we are rolling here. 7 picks in the books, 8 picks soon to be in the books, and now 8 picks are in the books. And wow. This is a shock. Am I on the right? Am I on the right tracker? Am I seeing Michael Penix, number 8 overall to the Atlanta Falcons as I get this going? There we go. This is a real draft now. We got a surprise pick, a shocker. There's always something that you cannot even begin to believe would happen that 0 people have mocked. And here we are in the top 10, pick number 8, and we've already got one. Michael Penix? Michael Penix to the Atlanta Falcons, the team that just spent $40-something million a year on Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Michael Penix, one of the oldest quarterback prospects in this draft. Michael Penix, who is either one day older or one day younger than Trey Lance, by the way. I can't remember if he's older or younger by one day than Trey Lance. And he is now a rookie in the NFL, learning behind Kirk Cousins and being drafted ahead of J.J. McCarthy. Wow, an absolute shocker to kick off this live stream. To be honest with you, it was chalky, really, up until about pick 7. 5 was interesting because you didn't know they could go offensive tackle. They could go wide receiver, pick number 5 with the Los Angeles Chargers there. But it is Joe Alt at 5. Let's go through this whole thing and catch everybody up just because for posterity's sake here on this live stream. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for jumping into the live stream here as we're on now. And we are rolling in the NFL draft. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit the notification so you know when we go live on OT with BP. Eric Crocker, my guy, my co-host on Locked On 49ers, will be jumping in here with us any minute. Got a couple other special guests to break down some stuff from the 49ers and other teams around the NFL as we roll through the first round. And let's see if the 49ers logo happens to pop up on the screen. And on the screen, and let me know, please, in the chat if something big is happening that I might be missing, because I'm going to be streaming live and I'm watching the draft, I'm watching the tracker, and there might be some things I missed. So let me know if there's any rumors out there, any big trades that are swung, or if there's something that I might be missing and sound like I'm in a fishbowl. I don't know. I fixed my mic. Let me double check my mic settings and make sure here. Let me know in the chat if my mic settings aren't sounding right. Let me go back to my audio settings. Yeah, I should be good here. I should be absolutely good. Uh-oh. What we got here? What do we got here?
Always around the football at that time. Made a great Eric Crocker.
There he is. Croc joining the live stream. Here we go. Okay, they say I sound good. Croc, you're looking good. Reaching for something. Are you making a beverage? I went margarita for the NFL draft today.
I actually just told my wife, I said, run to the store. Can you grab me something? So we'll see what she brings back. If I know my wife, she's probably going to bring me back some Jack and Coke. But we'll see. But I'm definitely going to be having a beverage with you tonight.
Tim says, can we draft Croc at 31? Croc maybe a little overaged for a prospect at this point, but he's in great shape. He's in NFL draft shape. He's in combine shape right now. Can't say the same for myself. What do you think, Croc? Could you believe what we just saw at pick number 8? Caleb Williams won, obviously. Chalky through the first 4 picks. Jaden Daniels to the Washington Commanders to start the new era with Adam Peters over there in Washington. Drake May goes 3 to the New England Patriots. No trades at the top. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Arizona Cardinals. I want to talk about that with the division rival in a second with you, Croc. Joe Alt, offensive tackle, goes to Jim Harbaugh's Los Angeles Chargers. We got Malik Neighbors in New York with the Giants. J.C. Latham, the Titans do go tackle, but they go Latham instead of Alt, the guy that everyone mocked to them. And that starts to shake things up. And then just bonkers stuff with pick number 8 and the Atlanta Falcons drafting Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr., now the pick in for the Chicago Bears with Rome Odunze, which shouldn't be a shocker there for the Chicago Bears. Fantastic haul for the Chicago Bears. I got a guest to come on in a minute to talk with us about the Chicago Bears, a Bears fan, local radio guy for a long time. And one of my buddies, Ryan Covey, is going to jump on with us and talk about the Bears here in a minute. But we got to go back to this pick number 8 first, Croc, before we even start talking about the 49ers, unless they jump on the clock. And it looks like actually the Minnesota Vikings have jumped up one spot with the Jets to go to pick number 10, which I presume is going to be J.J. McCarthy. But Michael Penix, number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons, the team that just signed Kirk Cousins, Croc. That is the first huge shocker in this draft. I'm blown away by that move.
So I was really confused. I don't know why it didn't occur to me when I heard the selection that Kirk Cousins was there. I'm like, oh, okay, they draft Penix. That makes sense. Atlanta, they need a quarterback. And then I started kind of seeing the outrage, and I'm like, wait a minute. They just gave Kirk Cousins a ton of money. How do you draft a guy top 10 and you just paid this guy? Like, how does that work? Like the 49ers, when they drafted Trey Lance, it was like, well, okay, Jimmy, you're on your way out. So it's like, it makes sense. I am so confused by this move. Have they explained it? I'm watching the TV, not quite listening to it. Have they explained their reasoning behind it?
I haven't heard any explanation of why that has happened. I'm on mute right now, watching it the same as you. This is going to be an interesting one. We got to get our guy Aaron Freeman on from Locked On Falcons to explain what the heck is going on with the Atlanta Falcons going with the quarterback. I mean, that's got to shock every single Falcons fan. They were looking at the best defensive player potentially on the board. They could have tripled up at wide receiver with Rome Odunze there at pick number 8. Nobody saw Michael Penix coming. Not a single person that I can remember, maybe even in the mock drafts before they even signed Kirk Cousins, had Michael Penix going at number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, this is wild. I thought Penix was going to be a guy who was going to go in round 2 anyway. And if he did go in round 1, I thought the last team in the world that would draft him would be the Atlanta Falcons. That's crazy.
I'm scrolling through Twitter trying to see how people feel about it. But man, that had to be one of the more confusing things I've seen. So I have seen the chat. A lot of people are saying, hey, maybe there's something going on with the Achilles of Kirk Cousins. Maybe it's not quite healing. I mean, there was video footage of him a month ago, maybe, like dropping back, throwing footballs on a tennis court. He seemed to be fine. So was there a setback in the process of that? Can you think of a time where you're more confused by a pick? I was a little confused by the 49ers drafting Mike McGlinchey at 9, knowing they had Trent Brown. But you know, Trent Brown was on the last year of his contract. You kind of heard some things about, did they not quite like how he is? And did they want him to play those last games? And they didn't like the toughness there. So maybe there's something there, but I was still confused until the next day. Oh, they traded him away. Well, Kirk Cousins just got a ton of money. He's not getting traded away. So what the hell?
I don't know. I have zero answers on this. I have no idea how this makes sense. They think he was too good of the only way this makes sense is they just evaluated him as a top quarterback in this class, thought he was too good to pass on, and they're going to let Kirk start for a couple more years, and then hand it over to Michael Penix. Like that's the only plan. That's the only possible way this works. By the way, didn't cost much for the Minnesota Vikings, who everyone thought was going to move up to 3, 4, 5. They ended up holding steady. J.J. McCarthy, the rumored target, still on the board at pick number 10. It looks like it was pick 11 plus number 129 overall. So a 4th round pick the Jets give up to, or the Vikings give up to the Jets, and then the Jets also give back pick 203, which is a 6th round pick. So really it was just a swap of 4th and 6th round picks, not much at all, to go up one spot. Oh, sorry, number 157 overall as well. So a 4th and a 5th, basically. So a 4th and a 5th to get a 6th back to move up one spot from 11 to 10 with the Jets, presumably to draft. And let's see if the pick is in here. I'm not seeing if the pick is in at number 10 yet. No, it is not. But JJ McCarthy presumably will be the selection here at number 10 for the Minnesota Vikings.
And that makes the most sense for this team. You saw what they went through at the quarterback position last year. You seeing them go through that, I'm like, man, wouldn't you? At least I would have liked to see them go through that with Trey Lance, like just so we could see him play consecutive games. What does that look like? Does he end up kind of getting better? Obviously, that's just a pipe dream of mine, just to see, like, man, can the kid play at all? But interesting situation there with Minnesota. Definitely feels like they're going to be drafting McCarthy here. Now, someone in the chat posted something that said we've officially gone the longest ever without a defensive player. No defensive players selected yet, and I don't think there's going to be one at 10 with Minnesota on the clock.
No defensive player in the top 10. That's wild stuff. And there's some really good defensive players in this draft. And I think the last note here on the Penix thing is I don't know if I saw him as a top 10 player. Like, did the Falcons liked him so much they had to have gotten an offer from, say, the Vikings or another team to move up, maybe for Rome Odunze. They liked Penix that much that they said no to trades, even trying to pick him 5 picks later. They thought he might be gone. That's crazy, right? That the evaluation had to be that high on Michael Penix for the Atlanta Falcons.
The quarterback evaluation thing is pretty weird. I will say this: out of all the quarterbacks, when we think of how much confidence that you have that a guy is what you believe he is to be, I would say Penix is that. Right? Like McCarthy, I still feel like we don't know. Okay, fit the system well with Michigan. They ran the ball a lot. They leaned on that. But with Penix, you've seen him in college football for 6 years. Now, 4 of those ended with injuries, but the 2 that didn't end with injuries, it was a terrific quarterback. So if you're going to take a risk or a flyer on any of these quarterbacks and you're like, I ain't see him as a top 10 pick, like, can we say that about Drake May? Is it just more like, I just think he's more talented? I don't think he's more talented than Penix. He went high. Jaden Daniels, I don't know if he's going to be consistently as good of a thrower as Penix. I know he's a super playmaker for sure, but I think with all these quarterbacks, obviously there's going to be some of those question marks. Penix, I think there are question marks, but it may be more so about his age, at least the doubt, his age and durability. Like, those are probably the 2 things that you can question. Everything else, arm strength, mobility, athleticism, smarts, he checks the box in all of those things. Accuracy.
Michael Penix can sling the heck out of it. I just didn't think his overall resume was something where it was like, yeah, this guy's going top 10. We've got a veteran quarterback, and we're still going to go draft Michael Penix.
I think at the quarterback position, that's the one position where maybe, and we saw this with Brandon Weeden, right? And we didn't think he was like the super first round pick, but a guy that's older but still goes first round. Quarterback is the one position where you can maybe be old and still be like, okay, well, I'm starting that as a rookie at 26 years old and still play 13 more years.
We got a question here from Christian. When is the first spot to be on alert as a Niners fan, either for a trade up or for an Aiyuk trade? I think that was probably around pick 7. I kind of ran outside to the office here to get this thing going, to make sure I was ready to go with the stream, because I thought the Niners might pull something at pick number 7, because the Titans, I thought, would be a team willing to move out potentially and get a lot of offers for one of those wide receivers once Alt went to number 5. And so I think number 7 was the earliest. Rand Carthon, familiar with John Lynch. I thought that might be a scenario. That's pretty high to go still. I would probably say 17 with the Jaguars, right? Croc would be like really where you start to go on alert, where something could start to go down. 15 maybe with the Colts.
I would say once you hit 15 and Fuaga and the Washington tackle.
Fatanu.
Right. So Fuaga, Fatanu, when you get around 15 and those guys are still on the board, that's when my antennas kind of go up a little
especially
bit.
when like they start to go, but one's still there. Because that might be the indicator. You might be sitting there. It's like, let's say because like we've kind of gone through this. Like, okay, who would you trade up for? And we kind of came up with Fautanu and Fuaga. If it's those two, you sit back, and once the first one goes, then you start trying really hard maybe to move up and get the second one. If you really like two guys, you let the first guy go first. That'll indicate when you really want to try harder to get the last guy potentially. So yeah, once Fautanu goes or once Fuaga goes, go get the other guy potentially. I have been hearing this morning, Croc, and a lot of the insiders have talked about Fautanu as someone had medical rechecks and that might actually slide a little bit. And a lot of the plugged in mock drafters, Daniel Jeremiah and Peter Schrager and a lot of these guys in Breer and Fautanu was a little bit lower than I thought, like in the 20s of the mock drafts. And usually those mock drafts on the morning of the draft are the most accurate and the ones you should pay attention to. They have the best information and the latest information. And Fautanu might be a guy that slips a little bit and might even get close to the 49ers. So of the big time like tackles that the 49ers might be looking at, Troy Fautanu, I think, is the one that has a chance actually to get a little bit close. Guys like Guyton were going ahead of him. Like I saw Guyton really high in a lot of those really plugged in insider mock drafts this morning. Another guy,
Peter Schrager. I think Peter Schrager was the one with the Mike McGlinchey. And at that time, I hadn't seen anything on Mike McGlinchey to the 49ers.
Yeah.
And then it was like the day of or the day before, all of a sudden he mocked McGlinchey to the Niners. And I'm like, and the offensive tackle, like this guy is clueless.
Yeah, I know.
You got Joe Brady, you got Trent Brown. Like, what is this guy talking about?
That is the best example. So the Falcons pick with Penix, right? Imagine what the response would be to somebody who put out a mock draft yesterday that had Michael Penix going to the Atlanta Falcons at pick 8.
Oh,
imagine what people would say about that.
Doing it for clicks. He wants attention. Are they not paying you enough at NFL Network?
Right. Yeah, exactly. What are you on? What are you smoking? All right. Tim says, appreciate you guys working overtime to bring us the solid live coverage. I appreciate you, Tim. I appreciate you guys all jumping in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on the new channel. Having a lot of fun. Pumped with the new channel. Kind of getting loose and just, doing whatever I want, whenever I want with some extra overtime coverage. And, we can't go live for a couple hours. 3 hours is probably how long this will go if we go all the way through the end of the first round. We can't do that on Locked On 49ers, right? This is a 30-minute podcast. So, just have some time to hang out with the folks and
hang out, pour something up. I made my wife do a store run. I did have to ask you, have you told everybody that you are officially monetized on this channel? You did it in 2 weeks. That is amazing time.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody for helping me out with that. Getting to, there's some certain points on YouTube you got to hit to get monetized. And I wanted to hit that before the draft, and I didn't really launch this channel soon enough to, I thought I might not get there, but it just took like a little bit less than 2 weeks actually to get there. You get over 1,000 subscribers and, if you hit a few other benchmarks and then you get monetized. And so I'm there now here on YouTube with the new OT with BP channel. So I'm super pumped about it.
And I was talking to the buddies and they were talking about Marvin Harrison. And one of my buddies, shout out to my guy Reese, he said, who does Marvin Harrison Jr. remind you guys of? And I couldn't quite think of it. And one guy threw out a couple guys. I'm like, those guys are like faster though. Like those guys are fast. I think he said Julio and AJ Green. And I'm like, they were more explosive. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is good. I see him do a lot of stuff at the catch point. I see him be able to separate on short to intermediate routes, not as much downfield. There's a lot of contested stuff. I'm like, maybe like a Larry Fitzgerald. And then my buddy said a name, and I was like, wow, that is spot on. And if I think the NFL knew that this guy was going to be that, he would have went higher. But Mike Thomas, a.k.a. Slant Boy. But what is he good at?
Okay.
Short to intermediate separation, but contested catch. He was dominant, and and he ran decent. Like he wasn't like he was this slow guy, but he wasn't a burner downfield. So a lot of stuff downfield had to be more contested. Another tackle off the board to New York.
There we go. Another pick is in, and it is Olu Fashanu to the New York Jets at pick number 11 after J.J. McCarthy went pick 10 to the Minnesota Vikings. Big win, right, Crocky, for the Minnesota Vikings to, give up whatever, a little pick swappage, mid-round stuff. They didn't have to give up their pick at 23 in this draft. They didn't have to give up a first-round pick next year to go up and get their guy, presumably if he was their guy. Who knows? Maybe they really wanted Michael Penix, but J.J. McCarthy to the Minnesota Vikings, I think it's got to be looked at as a huge win for them so far.
Definitely. With this, what we're seeing right now, right? Just 11 straight offensive players. Do you think they might be listening to Locked On 49ers just a little bit? I know we've talked a lot about how, hey, man, defense, they kind of keep you in the game. Offense has to take you over the top. And right now, when you see 11 guys go off the board and they're all offensive players, I think the league is kind of leaning into that. Like, you have to be a play better offensively than the people across from you, as opposed to a play better defensively.
Is it that the college game isn't giving the NFL the defensive talent? Or do you think the NFL is just like, we need more offensive talent than we need more defensive talent?
I think the NFL is just like, we have to be able to score more points than our opponent. It's really leaning in on that. Like, obviously, you don't neglect defense. You need some playmakers over there. You need some guys that fit what you like to do. But I think the days of being able to just say, okay, we're going to lean on this number one defense to be the thing that takes us home and has us hoisting the Lombardi, I think those days might be over. And we should have known that 2019 when the 49ers had a terrific defense that held the Chiefs to 10 points through 3.5 quarters. Then all of a sudden, it's just, you guys did a great job for most of this game, but that's not enough. Your offense has to be able to take you home. Then we just saw this last game where the defense held up for most of the game, but it's like, offense, we need you to take this home, and they didn't. And I think we're going to continue to see that. I mean, even the Super Bowl before with the Eagles and the Chiefs, it came down to who could score more points.
The NFL is getting smaller and smaller players from the college game. And one thing that I've noticed at the top of this draft is Joe Alt, 6'8", J.C. Latham, 340 pounds. Olu Fashanu's big. Rome Odunze's big. Marvin Harrison Jr. is big. Drake May's big. Like there's, the big guys are going first. If you're big and athletic, you're going to go first. And then later you got to wait for either big and slow guys or the small and fast guys. Right. And the defensive players in this draft, look at those defensive tackles we've talked about. Look at the edge rushers. So many of them are small. And then the big guys aren't super dynamic and athletic. So I think that's part of it as well. Just the size and the shape of what the college game is giving the NFL. And I think a lot. Christian says, should we share our big board? Yeah, I'll pull up our big board and we can kind of show, and maybe we'll start marking off the guys that are not on the big board left. Good call, Christian. We've got to bring the big board up here at some point as we get closer to where the 49ers select. But as far as the 49ers go, Croc, I think the board looks pretty good right now, right?
I think so. It's kind of laying out like we thought. We kind of put up this initial top 12 guys, top 15 that we thought potentially would be off the board. And I'd say right now, it's kind of aligning with that. A lot of guys, obviously Penix. I don't even think we had Penix in that going off this high.
Going 8 is even better, right? That was one of the things. It was like, there's certain prospects that I think are first round guys that I would like to see go earlier because they're either, kind of dirty prospects for a fit for the 49ers, or maybe I'm not as into them, but you kind of have to draft them at 30. Like Amarius Mims is a good one. Like, I want Amarius Mims to go before the 49ers and push down another player, because if he's at 31, you almost have to take him, but he scares the heck out of me because of the profile. Like, I love the physical ability, but like, does he even love football? Does he, injury stuff? And, he's so raw. Would he be able to play early in your developmental prospect? And so there's a lot of but he's such a good prospect physically that you have to take him and have to take the swing on a potential superstar offensive tackle, I think, at that point, if you are the 49ers. So Nate Wiggins is another one. I think you like him more than I do. I don't love his fit. He's not really physical as a run stopper at all. And he's really skinny. And even though he's 6'1", he doesn't have long arms. So he doesn't actually play with a lot of length. And he's fast as heck. And he actually plays hard, but he doesn't have great twitch, or he doesn't have great break, I think, lateral ability. He's just kind of leggy athlete. I don't know if he's going to be that sticky as a corner. It's like, man, but at 31, you kind of got to take him. But I hope he goes before the 49ers pick. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys. And I think I like Kool-Aid more. And I know you like Kool-Aid too.
I like Kool-Aid more than Wiggins.
You like Kool-Aid more than Wiggins?
Yeah.
You had Wiggins higher in our big board, though.
I think I expected him to go higher.
Okay. So, yeah, Wiggins is one of those guys. Mims is one of those guys. Tyler Guyton is one of those guys. And the quarterbacks. And we've already seen 5 quarterbacks go. That is great news for the 49ers because just one more pick can push a guy down to where the 49ers are at 31. So, fantastic start to this draft for the 49ers. We
got Miguel in the chat, and he says, watch the Broncos choose a quarterback. And I don't know what – maybe they're going Bo Nix here. But have you seen their quarterback room?
It's not good. Does Bo Nix make it that much better? I think it might be Bo Nix.
I think you gotta hope he makes it better if you're there because I mean they just traded for Zach Wilson and the other guys there. I mean it's so they're drafting Bo Nix.
The pick is in.
With the chat saying Bo Nix.
According to the chat, it's Bo Nix. Bo Nix is the pick for the Denver Broncos at pick number 12. I mean. This is insane stuff. 6 out of 12 picks are quarterbacks. I did not think Bo Nix was a first-round guy. And I thought maybe late round someone would come in to get Michael Penix. And I thought he was more of a second-round guy. And this is crazy. It's Bo Nix. That's great news for the 49ers, Crocker. This could not be going better for the San Francisco 49ers. 6 quarterbacks. That's 2 more players I did not account for that will be available for the 49ers at 31 that I didn't think would be there.
A trade up for the San Francisco 49ers it's looming, I feel like. Now we bet. Did we come to a conclusion on what we bet? I said the 49ers would trade up.
Yeah, and I said no trade, right?
Yeah.
And a trade down is a push? Is that what it is?
No, I think staying put might be a push. I think you said they would trade back. I said they'd trade up. No?
I think it was.
Okay, would you trade back as a push?
I think my argument was just that it's just more likely that any pick doesn't get traded. So it's probably better than 50% chance that there's no trade that happens, even though the Niners pick is probably more likely to be traded than other picks are. But we didn't decide what our bet was going to be.
I will say this about the quarterbacks flying off the board. A lot of these guys are battle tested. They are battle tested. And I watched Bo Nix this past year, a lot of Pac-12 football. I thought he was good. I thought Bo Nix was good. And it wasn't great starting off at Auburn. I watched his rookie year. He was more athlete than quarterback for sure. But I thought at Oregon, he did a really good job of developing into a true quarterback. And you just see the throws he was able to make inside the windows he was able to make. You see the athleticism. So I think it is surprising, just shocking just to see 6 quarterbacks, not just go first round, but go in the top 12. But I think you can make a solid case for why each guy has gone as high as they have. And I think Bo Nix, a lot of it is more perception of him. Why people are like, oh, no. And you hear about all the guys that are going first round. So no way 6 guys go first round. But I kind of like Bo Nix to Denver. Can they do right by him, though? That's the big thing.
I like the fit. I just would have preferred him drafted much later. And maybe they thought they were going to get him later. Maybe to be honest with you, the draft is a game. Sean Payton might have been sitting there and like once Penix is gone and once JJ McCarthy's gone, he's like, man, this is an entire round and we're not going to get that trade back when we're on the clock. And nobody offered that. So they thought, man, he's not going to be there in the second round and we need a quarterback. So we got to go Bo Nix now. And that might have been all it took was to see the 5 other quarterbacks go in front of him and know that there was no other starting quarterbacks that they liked in this draft. Another 6-year quarterback in Bo Nix too, Croc. Yeah. Like Trey Lance should have gone back to school. He should have transferred to like wherever, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon. Trey Lance could have transferred somewhere because he's as young or younger than Bo Nix and Michael Penix, who just got drafted in the first round. And guess what they were able to do over the course of since Trey Lance has been in the NFL, those quarterbacks have become good prospects, and they were not when Trey Lance was drafted at the same age.
Well, here's the thing, though, right? Would you, if somebody said, all right, Peacock, you come out right now, you miss a year because your team doesn't play, but you're projected to go number 3 overall, You go back to college, we don't know what might happen. You could transfer and maybe, gain more experience, but I mean, I would go to the NFL too.
I mean, if you're going to be a top 3 pick, you kind of got to go. But you know what would be more valuable than being drafted number 3 is earning a second contract and being actually ready to be in the NFL.
Well, now here's the one thing about being drafted number 3 overall. Like, you made a lot of money. So if Trey Lance never plays another NFL snap again, he made like $38 million, So and the money isn't what drives these guys. And seeing how he was wired, he was definitely a guy. I know he wants to be on the field. I know he wants to be a competitor, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Now, here's not a worst thing in the world, but Brock Bowers selected by the Las Vegas Raiders. I really like Brock Bowers as a prospect. They just drafted Michael Mayer last year. What round was he drafted in? First round? Second round?
He was an early second round pick. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
But that's a best player available pick, right? And maybe a team that was probably expecting to be able to draft Michael Penix or Bo Nix. And all of a sudden they're like, well, those quarterbacks weren't there. But guess what? The best player on the board is Brock Bowers. All right. So that is the Raiders pick. Brock Bowers at pick number 13. We're off and running in the first round. We got our first guest of the evening coming on here, Croc. We got Jason Aponte coming on a little bit later. He's actually in Detroit at the NFL draft. 49ers content creator, Sprint Ride Option podcast, friend of the program. Jason Aponte will be on a little bit later. But my guy, former host at 95.7 The Game, and he knows the 49ers. He knows the Raiders. He knows Bay Area sports. But at heart, he's a Chicago Bears fan. I'm going to bring my guy, Ryan Covey, on the podcast right now. Also, one of my favorite people to golf with, by the way, is Mr. Ryan Covey. Ryan, we got Caleb Williams. We got Romo Dunze.
Yep.
How big is the party going on in the Covey household right now with these Chicago Bears picks? A new era of Chicago Bears football.
It's pretty big, boys. Good to see both of you. Wife just made burritos. You know what I mean? Everything's great, as can be expected. We all knew Caleb was going to the Bears. Like that was a done deal for the last several weeks. But the Roma Dunze pick, like that's who I wanted the Bears to go get, because if you have a young quarterback, and I get it, DJ Moore is there. They went out and made the big trade, got Keenan Allen, but you want somebody that he can build with down the years. And at 9, I mean, really, let's face it, Ryan Poles, like he had the keys to this draft, right? And we knew a bunch of quarterbacks were going to go, but Roma Dunze sitting there at 9, too tantalizing to pass up. I'm way fired up for Caleb Williams because, I've lived my whole life and the Bears have never had a real quarterback. But I'm like almost equally as psyched for a Dunze because I wasn't sure if he was going to be there at 9, and he was. So, yeah, big night at the Covey house, baby. We're feeling good.
It's a burrito party at the Covey house. Dunze has been hanging out and working out with Caleb Williams, too. It seems like they already have a rapport even before they enter the locker room together. He's a fantastically talented player. And,
we saw him getting down.
Covey's breaking up. He might be gone.
It froze a little bit.
Yeah.
I see you guys now. Sorry. Now I see you. Yes, I saw the clip last week. Dunze working out with Keenan and DJ and Caleb, and like I got text Bears fans friends, and they were like, "This is good."
Oh man, we lost Covey again. All right, we'll try to catch back up with Covey. We'll put him in the green room here for a second. Man, like things can flip so fast in the NFL, Croc. If Caleb Williams and Romo Dunze are like legit dudes, they can be exactly what we saw with the Houston Texans last year, right? And I don't see any reason why the Bears can't be that next scary team for the team that's hosting the draft, like the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Like, man, if he's the real deal, that's something, because this is a franchise changing draft for the Chicago Bears potentially, and I just hope they don't screw it up.
The Chicago Bears, how's their defense?
It was really good in the second half of last year. If Covey jumps back on, we'll ask him. But
so they are trending in the right direction then. I mean, even with Justin Fields, and I like him again, the part with him and Jaden Daniels that they kind of remind me of each other. They've been more playmakers than just pure consistent passers within the structure of an offense. But I wonder how much better the Chicago Bears offense would be if they just had a quarterback that just throw the ball where I need you to throw the ball. Throw the ball where, this is going to be, this is how I want you to execute. Just get the ball out of your hands. And can Caleb Williams do it? And I will say, a lot of the highlights that people show are plays of him kind of rolling around, scrambling, making these amazing plays. But man, you put on that film against Colorado, and that was just one of the most recent games that I watched of Caleb Williams. It jumps out right away. Just snap, ball out of his hands. Boom. Accurate, on time. Ball, snap, out of his hands. Boom. I mean, and it was consistent. So he can definitely do it. Can he be consistent with it at the NFL level with the Chicago Bears?
Absolutely. A little breakdown there from Croc on the Caleb Williams film, Ryan. And when I'm watching, the thing that I love about, and it's really the stark difference between what and I liked Justin Fields so much coming out of school, and I think he can still be something. I love the fit with him with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know Bears fans loved him and didn't believe that they were going to draft a quarterback and trade away Justin Fields, and I have a feeling I know that you thought otherwise because I've talked to you about it in the past. But one thing that's very different about them, and the thing I love the most about Caleb Williams, is when he sees it, he gets rid of the ball instantly, and he has ultimate control of where the ball is going. And sometimes he plays a little hero ball like Justin Fields does, and that's, I think, what kind of worried some folks about, oh, this is just Justin Fields again. But no, Fields it just takes him too long to get there when he sees it. But for Caleb Williams, when he sees it from whatever angle he's at, he gets the ball out instantly, and he has ultimate control of where that ball is going to go. It's really fantastic. Oh, you're muted now. Your connection's better, though. That's it. That's it for Ryan Covey. The burritos are ready. He's too excited. I'm going to see him on the golf course, I think, on Monday. I hope he's hitting them straight. And I've been hitting them. I've been hitting them okay recently. It's a party. It's a party. Oh, I think Croc actually might be getting served a Jack and Coke or something. Right
I thought my wife, she got her. Let me put the camera on her. She's over here. She got her pizza. She got her drink. I was like, wait, where's mine? She's like, oh, I didn't make it. Like, I can't get up.
Wow. Dang.
Come on, Nurse Crocky.
Nurse Crocky. She's always ready to tell us about diabetes and anything in the nursing world, but she can't get Crocky a cold beverage in his hand while he's doing a live stream. Come on. All right, here we go. We got our guys off the board, Croc. One of our guys.
Fuaga, huh?
We say Fuaga. He is off the board. He's going at number 14 to the New Orleans Saints. And this was one of those picks I was a little bit skeptical of, Croc, because when I saw Fuaga to the Saints, I thought, man, right tackle, they kind of need a left tackle more, even though Ramchek's hurt right now. Do they think that Fuaga can play left tackle for them? Do they think that they're going to move Ramchek and keep Fuaga at right tackle in the long term? Do they think that maybe Fuaga's a guard for a while in the short term? Or they just thought he's the best player available? And that it could be any and all of those things. But I did peg Fuaga as being a tough fit for some teams just because I thought he'd be viewed as maybe a guard and maybe a right tackle only for teams that might be looking for a left tackle. But that appears not to be the case for the New Orleans Saints, who have now drafted Talisé Fuaga, one of my big trade-up candidates for the San Francisco 49ers. Not many guys left that I think the 49ers should move up for, but I think there's a lot of players left that the 49ers could still move up for. Maybe some of those members of John Lynch's 22 first-round grades as they sit here still at 31 in this draft. Talisé Fuaga off the board, Croc.
If you need a defensive player, this is a great draft to need a defensive player because at every single pick so far, we're talking about 14 picks now.
14 picks, all on offense, and almost all. In fact, all of them, well, Brock Bowers got in there as a tight end, but if you put him in the pass catcher category, we got quarterbacks, pass blockers, pass catchers. That's it in this draft. 14 picks. Unbelievable. We're almost halfway through the first round.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough for, looking for an offensive player like the 49ers. I mean, it's like, man, where's the elite talent on the defensive side? Where's the Minkas? Where's the Derwin James? Where's the Nick Bosa's? You know, for anybody out there that, you know, feel like, man, I really like Chopper Robinson. Don't think he'll fall to the Niners. There's hope. There is hope. You're halfway through, dang near halfway through the first round, and not one defensive player selected.
All the Robinsons, Chop, Darius, Kool-Aid, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Cooper DeJean, everybody's still on the board. We got a little something in the chat. We got a little something in the chat here, Croc. I don't know if this is confirmed. I gotta refresh some stuff here.
No way. I feel like my phone would be going off right now if that were true.
I gotta refresh some stuff here. And in the chat says Deebo Samuel traded to the Steelers. We might have some funny business happening in the chat, but we got to follow up on this because I do have a lot of dedicated listeners and followers that wouldn't do me wrong by saying something big is happening that's not really happening. And Twitter's broken right now because it won't even load for me right now. Let's see if we can get some updates here. What are you seeing, Croc?
Nothing.
That's fake. All right. Well,
nothing.
That's a false alarm there. And
hey, here's something right here that's not a false alarm. The Atlanta Falcons did not inform Kirk Cousins that they were going to draft Michael Penix at 8.
That chat member has been blocked, by the way. They did not inform Kirk Cousins that Michael Penix, and like, I don't think you have to inform everybody of everything. Like a lot of guys, and he's the backup, right? You don't have to tell this. Like, it's not like Kirk Cousins' job's in danger right now. They just paid him.
Well, you can say that he's the backup, but you drafted him like 8th overall. Like that is a premium pick.
Yeah,
that's not even like
that's
hey,
on
man.
you.
We're drafting Jimmy Garoppolo in the 2nd round. You know, let's make sure we let Tom Brady know, and he's still pissed off. Like that is a high pick where any quarterback that is looking to, first of all, you went to Atlanta, a team that's kind of in like a rebuild. Dude, give me an offensive lineman. Get me a defensive player. The defense was ass. give me some edge rushers. Give me a defensive tackle. You give me a quarterback. Remember, Aaron Rodgers was upset when they told him about Jordan Love, and that was at the tail end of the 1st round. This is a top 10 premium pick, and you use it for another quarterback, and you don't let me know. That's a little weird.
It's more. If I'm Kirk Cousins, it's not about you just drafted a backup for me. I'm not worried about that. I'm a competitor. I'm going to beat that kid out. He's not going to take my job, at least not right now. But it would tick me off that I didn't get better. And that's kind of the Aaron Rodgers thing, I think, with the Packers a few years ago. It was like, let's get better with me rather than drafting a backup player who's not going to play my entire time when I'm here. That's what you would be upset about. Not that they didn't check with you that they're drafting your position.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till we hear the reasoning behind it, because nothing about it right now. Thanks, babe. Nothing about it right now makes any type of sense.
There we go. We got Croc a drink. Cheers to everybody out there. Cheers, Croc. I got to say, Croc, I mean, we're in a loose environment here. We're having fun. But I just want to thank you for jumping on those few years ago now and being my co-host every day on Locked On 49ers. It's been a hell of a ride. It's been a lot of fun. And times like this, the NFL draft, hanging out, having a drink with all of the viewers here, everybody hanging out with us in the chat. This is what it's all about. This is fun. Draft day is awesome. So I appreciate you being here with me on my new channel to do this. And I can't wait to go jump on your channel for round 2 and do it up tomorrow.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey man, thank you for bringing me on Locked On. I tell my wife, I tell other people, I'm like, man, that Locked On 49ers kind of changed my life. You know, it got things really going. And there were a lot of different things I had going on and kind of all picked up around the same time. Locked On included, but this has been like the biggest, most consistent thing that I have going on. So I'm definitely, and it's fun. It's fun talking ball with you. It's fun talking ball. Before the Super Bowl, went to San Francisco, had a couple of drinks. You know, that was fun. Heck, I stayed at your house one night when I was still living in Arkansas, and I came to California for a day or two. So, man, it's been awesome.
Glad you're back in Cali. We can hang out more often in person, even though we're not that far away, Croc, too. And
Really not.
We should hang out more often. I got to get you to the golf course.
I had a buddy or a coach, a guy I coach with, and I was telling him, I said, man, once I get situated into this home, I'm going to buy a set of golf clubs and I'm going to start golfing. But I know me, we did an ad read on Locked On, and you talk about, being competitive. I know I'm competitive. Once I start golfing and trying to learn, I know I can't stop. I also know it's expensive. But he said, oh, Croc, the coach said, I have about 6 sets of golf clubs, because people that really golf, sometimes they end up just getting new ones and all that.
You get the bug.
He said, I'll charge you for the set, but I won't really charge you. I'm only charging you just to hold you accountable so that you really put the work in, and then I'll give you that money back. He was like, just make sure you put it to use. And he said, I'll go out there, I'll teach you. And he really put me through a whole little kind of tutorial when we were on the football field, showing me, just the different stands and what the different clubs, how they work. It was fun stuff. He said, dude, during the summer, you and I can go out there twice a week. He said, I got you, man. So we're gonna get out there. And I was like, I want to be good for my co-host Brian Peacock, so I can go golfing with him and not be bad.
It's gonna take a little while. You're gonna be bad for a while, but you're an athlete and you'll figure it out. And I think the best advice, the toughest thing for me is I played a lot of baseball and I still play softball all the time. It's not like hitting is in baseball. It's more like throwing, the mechanics. It's more like throwing a baseball than hitting a baseball. And there's a reason pitchers are usually pretty good golfers. Like kickers and punters are usually pretty good golfers, because it's very mechanical, and in some cases it's a little counterintuitive. And I want to have a big shout out here for my guy Dr. Steve Brule, one of the best handles on YouTube, hitting us with the super chat, man. I appreciate it. Super chats are now open. Thanks to all of you jumping in and subscribing to the new channel here. And we don't do super chats on Locked On 49ers. It's not part of our network operations, but we can do them here, and I absolutely appreciate them. And I see Dr. Steve Brule always in our live chats when we're doing Locked On 49ers, and he's always here with us on OT with BP. And I appreciate all the regulars. I appreciate all the new fit folks. And welcome to the new channel and having fun here with the draft. We have a defensive player, Croc, that has been selected in this NFL draft, and it took all the way to pick 15. And it is the UCLA defensive end, Laiatu Latu, defensive end pass rusher. And I think he is the best defensive player in this draft, Croc. It was just a question about the medical for him, and if that was going to push him down draft boards. And clearly Chris Ballard and the Indianapolis Colts weren't worried about the medical, and those images came through clean for him to be the first defensive player off the board at pick 15. This is a historic draft, Croc. We're going to talk about the 2024 draft forever being the first draft that no offensive or no defensive players were drafted until the 15th pick, almost halfway through the first round.
I'm watching Latu up there. My wife is like, man, he's pretty tall. He's the defensive end. So those guys, they got to have that length, long arms, long limbs. And I train a cornerback that goes to UCLA, my guy, Jaden Marshall. And he was telling me all about Latu, and he was like, man, he's a beast. He was like, he's a beast, Croc. So hard worker, excited to see him and kind of what he does with the Colts, being able to play with DeForest Buckner over there. We got Felipe Gomez in the chat. He said, Croc eating that Eddie's pizza 100%. My wife just laughed like 100% Eddie's. We used to go cheap because we were really frugal. So we would go with the Domino's or the Little Caesars. But now we go for quality. So Eddie's Pizza, that's the way to go in Stockton, California.
Wink tells me Michael's Pizza is where it's at in Stockton.
We have been to Michael's Pizza. Oh, we have. I was here for Shane's birthday.
We went to David's recently.
Yeah, David's Pizza.
Oh, so you have to have, it's just first name and then pizza in Stockton. That's how they roll.
I guess so. I didn't think about it. He said so. It's just first names and then pizza. That's how they roll in Stockton.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie's, Michael's.
Why complicate it?
You got Eric's Pizza.
That sounds probably too salty.
Right.
All right.
I did not know Latu was from Sacramento.
Oh, really? I didn't. Galt looks like. Oh no,
Galt, yeah.
Felipe's from Galt. Latu
No,
from
Felipe's
Sacramento.
from Galt,
Okay.
yeah.
Like the only thing you could say is there was the injury concern with the neck, and then there was some shout out Visalia, California, representing as well. Kevin Costner, draft day. A lot of people watching the draft day movie today. Kevin Costner went to high school in Visalia, I think, for a year. I don't know if he graduated from there. It's like went to school like my dad or my uncle or something like that way back in the day. Mount Whitney High. Shout out Visalia, California. Shout out to everybody. We had Brussels earlier in the live stream. Love it. It's fantastic stuff. Latu, though, he was the guy that I would always put on the tape, Croc. When we're watching Fuaga, Pac-12, we're watching Troy Fautanu, I'm watching Roger Rosengarten. We're putting on the UCLA tape because that was the best pass rusher, was Latu. You got to see him go against a guy who's got NFL skills with his hands too, and NFL technique. And so that was fun to see those guys battle. And the offensive tackles a lot of times held up, but man, Latu won a lot. And so it was fun watching those battles. And we're seeing all these guys from the Pac-12 in the final year of the Pac-12 going in the first round, which is kind of cool too.
In the chat, Nees says, I saw a video on Instagram of a homeless man balancing a shopping cart on his head in Stockton. We have this guy, he stands at the intersections, the corners, and he balances a shopping cart on his head. I have not bicycle. Yeah, I have no idea how he does it. Trash cans, like trash bins. Don't know how he does it. But I will say this. The Colts, that was a team that was mentioned with the 49ers potentially trading up, maybe being interested in Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, that's not happening now. But also people thought they potentially want to draft a receiver. And the receiver that was rumored or kind of mocked to them was Brian Thomas. So another receiver kind of going down. I don't foresee Seattle, who's on the clock right now, drafting Thomas either.
Little too similar to DK Metcalf, how they win, how you would use them. So Fautanu, I dropped the nugget earlier about potential medical red flags for Troy Fautanu. It's the same story for, and I don't know if you missed any of this stuff this morning, Croc, but I did a podcast with Williamson and kind of broke down all the insider info, the late breaking stuff, morning of the draft, which is usually the best nuggets of information. And Fautanu's got medical rechecks that could cause him to drop a little bit in this draft, and we see him available now in the second half of the first round. He could go here 16 to the Seahawks, though. Brian Thomas Jr. was another one. Apparently, there's like a labrum injury potentially, and so there might be injury concerns there. And that's one of the quickest ways you'll drop in the NFL draft if a team thinks you have medical problems, if they think you're not going to be healthy enough to have a long career and sign a second contract with your team. They'll hit you with that red flag and you could drop. And some of the stuff we get information before the draft, sometimes we don't know until after the draft. And we've seen that firsthand, Croc, with Javon Kinlaw. And those reports were out there. We knew before the draft, Kinlaw had these, chronic knee problems. The 49ers bypassed that. And I think the 49ers have done an about face since then because they've been burned too many times. And now they've been trying to draft a lot healthier prospects to avoid that kind of a thing. So it's important to NFL teams. Seattle Seahawks.
It definitely should be important to the 49ers because, gosh, when you think of the Kinlaw thing, and they knew about it. See, when they initially drafted him, I didn't know that. And then Grant Cohn was like, Kinlaw and D Ford together have two healthy knees. That was his first tweet about it. Yeah. And the tough thing with Grant Cohn, sometimes, there might be some things he says for shock value, but there's a lot of things I think he says and he truly feels that way. And that clearly was one of them. And he got a lot of pushback for it. But, you watch Kinlaw on his tenure with the 49ers, and a lot of the time he dealt with injuries, and it was very specific to the knees.
Somebody's asking about Fautanu's injury. I don't remember what it was. It was, it might have been like a knee or something. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly what the injury was, and I can try to look it up, but I don't even remember where I heard the report. It was either like it was Breer or it was Kuiper or it was like Peter Schrager. It was one of those. Daniel Jeremiah. I can't remember which one of them now when I saw that information. In the chat, Matt says, "What are you boys drinking tonight?" I got myself a margarita. Well, it's a margarita adjacent. This is my own. This is a cocktail of my own invention. It's called the Pavo Real, and it is a very similar cocktail to. And I'll have to do a podcast about it and just break down the ingredients and maybe even make one on the air. Who knows? We can do whatever we want here on OT with BP. I call it the Pavo Real, which is Spanish for peacock. And it is a mezcal cocktail. You go mezcal, lime juice, elderflower liqueur, Saint Germain, and then a little cardamom bitters and a little grapefruit bitters. And it's a fantastic cocktail. Actually, one of my I've talked about this cocktail before on Locked On 49ers, and a few years ago, one of my listeners actually put it on his drink menu at the Santa Rosa Country Club. And so we went out there golfing with him, and he got us on the course. I'm not a member of any country clubs, but he got us on the course. And Covey was there, actually. A Wink was there, and we golfed and had a good old time. And they had the drink on the menu, and it was a fantastic cocktail. And it was actually a better version than the one I make, and it had like a smoked ice cube in it, and it was fantastic. And it's a really good cocktail. And I'm a margarita guy, so it's a margarita sort of adjacent cocktail. And it's a fantastic one. That's what I'm drinking tonight. Croc's got the old Jack and Coke. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Jack and Coke. That's pretty much my go-to when I'm out and about. But yeah, Jack and Coke. Couple, about 3 ice cubes. Perfect.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat what you guys are all drinking, what the food and beverage situation is for your draft party. We're cleanly in the watch territory for a trade, right? Croc, pick 17 with the I take that back. The Jaguars don't have pick 17 anymore, Croc. The Minnesota Vikings, they didn't move up as far as we thought from pick 11, but you know what? They moved up from pick 23 instead. The Jacksonville Jaguars now have the 23rd pick in the draft, and the Minnesota Vikings have the 17th pick in the NFL draft, following the Seattle Seahawks selection at number 16, which is very interesting. So
would not be a surprise at all to see the Minnesota Vikings go offensive line, and maybe they're like, oh, we need to get one of these offensive linemen that we identify that we really want for our team.
To protect my quarterback I just drafted. Byron Murphy, by the way, defensive tackle out of the University of Texas, goes at 16 to the Seattle Seahawks. So now we have, after no defensive players for the first 14 picks of this draft, we're now halfway through the first round, and we do have 2 defensive players off the board, 2 defensive linemen, Leatu Latu of UCLA, edge rusher to the Colts at 15, and at pick number 16 now, division rival Seattle Seahawks going with Byron Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas. Really good players there on the defensive side of the ball. And while Byron Murphy's a really good player, I don't think it's a guy that's going to change the game against the San Francisco 49ers.
I was watching the clips right now. They're showing the highlights on NFL Network. That's what I have it on. And I'm watching him spill. That's something I learned. I've been learning more about the defensive line. And one day I want to be a defensive coordinator, for my high school, and, kind of get to run things how I want to do it. So I've had to learn some of the terminology of guys up front. And I watched one of the guys spill so that it stretches out the run, and then everyone else pursues to the ball. Yeah, that was something just, I guess, I just wanted to kind of point out there. Spilling. That's a new one for you guys. Well, it's a new one for me. Probably not new for a lot of other people.
Not to be confused with CJ Spiller. Byron Murphy, defensive tackle to the Seattle Seahawks. He's an explosive guy. He's not very big. He's one of those. There's a ton of especially defensive players in this draft, Croc, that's like, he's statistically going to be better in the NFL. The stats aren't there. It's kind of a different game. So I do think you have to project more with some of these players. Here's a good question. Jacksonville moving back to 23 to get a little extra bump for the trade with the 49ers when they send 23 now to San Francisco for Brandon Aiyuk. I definitely don't think it makes it less likely that the Jaguars trade for Brandon Aiyuk now after this trade, potentially more likely. It's a good thought. Here's a good question from Ahmed. He says, do y'all think San Francisco would trust a rookie center? No, I don't think Kyle Shanahan would, but I don't think that prevents them from drafting a center. I just think they would draft a guy who starts playing at guard and then becomes a center. Or let's say the Niners draft Graham Barton. He could compete at tackle in year one, and they could find another tackle later, and maybe Barton ends up being a center. But if a guy could play tackle, you really have to weigh how good he's going to be at center, how much better if you want him to play center instead of tackle. But Kyle Shanahan's only had veteran centers, and maybe a guy would be smart enough and good enough to pick it up early, but I don't think they would draft a center thinking that I don't think they would draft a center thinking he was going to start week one, but they would allow him to pleasantly surprise them and could potentially start in week one if he picks everything up. But in Kyle Shanahan's offense, the center's in charge of the protections, and it's not the quarterback. So you got to be up to speed. And they've always had a veteran quarterback since Kyle Shanahan's been in charge of the San Francisco 49ers. So I would guess if they drafted someone to be a center of the future, he would probably play another position or back up year one. Dallas Turner to the Minnesota Vikings. That's why they moved up. They wanted to get the dynamic edge rusher out of Alabama at pick number 17 now. So the Minnesota Vikings, interesting, very interesting what they were up to. They traded up well before the draft with the Houston Texans to go from pick 42 in the second round. They spent, I think, a future second and another pick to go up with the Texans to get into round one at pick 23. Everyone thought they were going up in the top 5 to get a quarterback. They held their water, ended up going one spot up with the Jets at 10, got J.J. McCarthy there, and then now utilize number 23 that they got from Houston to move up again to pick number 17 and get a guy with 4.4 speed coming off the edge in Dallas Turner out of Alabama at pick number 17. Really interesting draft for the Minnesota Vikings. Really working the draft board, moving all around. We're talking 3 separate trades to get them to this point where they're drafting at number 10 and number 17. I like it. I love it for the Vikings right now. And they probably felt like they're playing with house money because they didn't have to spend a lot to go get J.J. McCarthy. So let's go up and get our guy that we love in this draft with Dallas Turner at 23, since we have all these extra picks that we weren't sure we were going to have. And they still got all their first round picks and everything for next year. They didn't have to give up in any of this. I assume. I don't know what they gave up to go from 23 to 17, but I don't think they had to give up their first round pick next year.
You're approaching pick 18, 19, 20. Is this an area where, aside from the whole Brandon Aiyuk thing, would you say, you know what, we need to move up 10 spots to potentially get an offensive lineman that we like? My thing all along has been, you don't force the offensive tackle position, right? When we're doing mocks and people are like, at 31, you didn't draft offensive lineman at 31. It's like, well, is this an area where we like, is this the guy we want? And if not, like, you pass on it. But if you have an opportunity to trade up, right, and maybe you have to give up a next year or two or whatever it is it maybe more beneficial to, aside from the Brandon Aiyuk thing, to trade up to pick 18, 19, 20, maybe snatch an offensive lineman that you identify is a day one starter on your team?
Absolutely. I think pick 2021 gets real serious for the 49ers as a possible trade up spot. But, I think the player the 49ers would be trying to trade up to get is probably a player that a lot of these teams would like to just draft themselves and sit there. One thing we're seeing, Croc, with the lack of trades in this draft, 2 of them by one team, the Vikings, that not everybody's like, we think every team's just willing to throw a bunch of picks. It's much harder to trade down in the NFL than to trade up. Most teams guard their picks with their lives and aren't just willing to throw trades around and go move up all the time. So it's a powerful thing if you are willing to move up. And if the 49ers want to go up, I think they will be able to, as teams I think are looking more to move down than to move up in most drafts. So the Niners can get that done if they want to. And I think coming up here, pick 20-ish or so, right after the Rams pick at 19, spot 20, 21, Eagles maybe 22, 23. It could start to get serious for the 49ers in potential trade up mode. Absolutely.
Cincinnati on the board or on the clock right now definitely feels like a team that may address the offensive line. They did go kind of O-line heavy between the draft and free agency last offseason. I remember that was a big topic and conversation surrounding a lot of Cincinnati fans. And then you lost your quarterback, for the year, kind of really derailed their entire season for the most part. So do we maybe see an offensive lineman go off the board here? And is it the offensive lineman that Peacock and Eric Crocker identify as a 49er offensive lineman?
That is the big question. Mims, it sounds like, is where let's get the graphic on the screen. The pick is in, Croc, with the 18th selection in the 2024 NFL draft. Looks like the Cincinnati Bengals are selecting Amarius Mims. Big ol' offensive tackle out of Georgia. I like it. I like the way this is going for the 49ers, Croc. I love this. This is fantastic.
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think the Rams and Pittsburgh can both be in the market for potentially taking the offensive lineman.
We could have an offensive line run here. Absolutely. I think it's time we talk to a guy who's actually in Detroit at the NFL draft right now, Croc.
Oh, yeah.
And that is our buddy Jason Aponte, who's looking good. He got a haircut for this week. He didn't want to spend his money on his haircut a couple weeks ago when he was on my podcast, but I wanted to make sure that this cut was looking fresh and made its way onto our screens here for our listeners that were asking for it. Aponte, how's it going, man? How are things going at the NFL draft in Detroit?
Thanks for having me, guys. And yeah, I kind of had to beg my barber to let me have a haircut on the arm. Like, I'll pay you next week. I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a haircut today.
Yeah,
that's how
exactly.
It's getting kind of bad out here. But a little bit shocking. I mean, the way that this draft is kind of shaping out right now, it looks like the 49ers are going to be, if they stick at 31, have their pick of some very good football players. And thank you to all the 6 quarterbacks that were drafted. Defensive players have started to come off the board now, but the 49ers are going to have to look at a very good football player. And I think you couldn't have asked for the board to fall their way better than this.
No doubt. I mean, I can't think of anything that could have been more beneficial to the 49ers in this draft, Jason, than to see all 6 quarterbacks already off the board, right? Because that's just free money. That's 2 players that I didn't expect were going to be there at 31 that are now going to be there at 31.
Right. And again, the 49ers, putting themselves in a position to be best player available. Again, obviously with the pressing need, everybody wants just O-line. I think there's a way to address the offensive line and get a very good football player that you didn't think was going to be in your range. And I think when we were talking, Brian, you said it best. Boards are funny. When the draft starts to play out, all of a sudden you have these guys that you're like, well, we had no idea. Literally, Dallas Turner going to Minnesota at 17 was something that felt like a lock at 8. This is why, when you see teams and they do visits with players and they're out of their range. No, you've got to do your homework because you never know how these things are going to play out. And then, tonight is a perfect example of it.
Jason, do you have a favorite player that's still on the board for the 49ers? Maybe if they're even looking to get up here at this point, which I think is now trade up territory here at around pick 20.
Yeah, I think Troy Fautano has to be the guy that you're looking at right now. But I have a feeling the Los Angeles Rams will not let them move up. I think that's going to be the team that's there. And I promise you, Croc, this isn't because, you're on, a secondary guy, but I still love the idea of Kool-Aid McKinstry being around at 31. I think that is something that if he's in that range, I know a lot of people don't want to trade up for a guy like that. I would love to have him in San Francisco.
What about Cooper DeJean? Because that's kind of, I guess, kind of my draft crush, and not Coop as a cornerback, but I love him as a DB. Brian Peacock, he's kind of, we probably have to do something to where if somebody uses his name, they get sued, but we have to patent it. There we go. But we're calling him Palen Ramsey. All right. Palen Ramsey, but we want to use him in that role, kind of like that star role player, or potentially that safety. And you look at the 49ers and the safety position, it's kind of a sneaky need. Everybody wants to focus on the offensive lineman. They want to focus on these different positions, but the 49ers have every offensive lineman coming back on a team that was one of the most efficient offenses in the league. Not saying they can't get better, but one of the most efficient offenses in the league. Where are they lacking? You lose Tayshaun Gibson. You had Tyler Nofunga hurt. Jair Brown, it's kind of up in the air on what he potentially is. Maybe he's great and this is all for nothing. But maybe he's that guy that he kind of we wanted to start him, and then we're like, oh no, we got to go away from him, and they ended up going with Logan Ryan, who they just got off of a boat when he was drinking alcohol, and then we got to go with Jair Brown again, but we don't quite like. Then he got hurt, so I think safety, even more so than most other positions, as far as being a need, might be the biggest need. Now, the value of it isn't as high, but if you're telling me you can get a guy like Cooper DeJean who can play that position, plays really good with his eyes, understands route concepts, clearly a playmaker, and has return ability when you lost Ray McLeod, I really like the thoughts of getting Palen Ramsey to the 49ers. So he's still on the board. That would be a guy that definitely covers a lot of ground for the 49ers, in my opinion.
I love that. I saw it on Twitter too. I love the nickname, and definitely, you guys got to make sure you get your patent. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the star role under Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley's going to oversee this defense, and Nick Sorensen's going to be the play caller. But you had to figure that Staley was going to have his fingerprints on it a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit more about like pressing need, and then you think about Hufanga recovery. Is he recovered? Is he going to be up for a payday as well? These, again, when people are like, well, it's not a need today. Yeah, but the need today doesn't have to always be addressed. It could be down the line in this draft, and it could be something that you address and you move forward with just to insulate yourself. So yeah, I don't see a problem with it, because there is this idea of who in this Staley's defense is going to be the star, and I think Cooper DeJean fits that scheme-wise perfectly.
Every defensive back is available right now, guys. And if there's a position that could probably impact as a rookie early on the 49ers roster, it's probably defensive back, maybe corner or safety, right? Because I don't know if an offensive lineman is going to break the lineup in week one. I don't think any defensive lineman would break the lineup necessarily in week one, or they could, right? Wide receiver, no. But cornerback, yeah, Kool-Aid, he's starting week one, right? Cooper DeJean, he might start week one. Heck, Javon Bullard in round 2 might start week one for the 49ers at safety if they went that route. So I think deep defensive back right now, Fautanu's out there. There's some, and like, look, whether you like speed off the edge, Chop Robinson, you want power off the edge, Darius Robinson, those guys are all still out there.
Yeah, and again, it's a good thing to have this tough decision and have all these players, because it does look like these guys were just going to be out of their range. You just figured that, Chop wouldn't be here. Terry and Arnold was going to be off the board. And now, you have your look at Darius Robinson and Kool-Aid and all these guys. It's a good thing to have, but it's a tough decision as a evaluator and a roster builder, because you have all of these guys, and now you have to figure out who to prioritize. It's something that I don't envy, but it's a good thing if you're a 49ers fan, because it looks like being in the first round, again, for the first time in a long time, is going to net you somebody who is going to be an impact guy, possibly with the way that this draft is shaking out. It's an exciting time right now, and I think that's why the 49ers weren't rushing to trade up, trade down. They're watching how the board falls, and now you find yourself in this position where you can land yourself a very good football player, possibly someone who can start right away, which is very hard to find in the first round, especially at the back end.
Can you set the seating for us over there in Detroit, Jason? What's it like there? What's it like being at the NFL draft? It's someplace I've never been. Is it wild? Is it a bunch of crazy characters? You seeing famous folks out there? You hanging out with Eminem and his posse? Did you help him dye his beard this morning? How's this going?
I mean, 275,000 people are here, the highest ever at any draft. And wow. When I was heading to grab something to eat before I could pick up my press pass, people were out in the streets. Detroit's alive. I mean, especially when you consider how well they did last season. And Marvin Harrison just walked on through here. You got the top 13 guys that are here. They're going to be walking through for press conferences. Everybody's trying to catch a glimpse of Caleb Williams, all these things. It's a fun time. You're looking around and you see a lot of the people that you watch on TV as well. It's a blast, honestly. This is my second draft, the first one in Vegas, but this one feels more alive somehow.
The pick is in for the Los Angeles Rams. I'm sure you already have this information, being with boots on the ground in Detroit, Jason, but it looks like Jared Verse, defensive end from Florida State, is the pick for the Los Angeles Rams at pick number 19. So we had Marvin Harrison Jr. to the rival Cardinals at 4. You had Byron Murphy to the Seattle Seahawks at 16, and now the Rams in the division going with Jared Verse. Do any of those picks make you shake in your boots a little bit in the NFC West?
Byron Murphy for sure. I mean, that feels
okay. Even more
that
than Marvin Harrison Jr., who's just a bigger version of his dad.
That's fine. I think, he's going to be a great player, again, but I don't think we know what this team is going to be going forward with, their roster construction, especially with their quarterback. The Byron Murphy thing, I don't like the whole idea of them landing an interior defensive lineman as good as Byron Murphy. That doesn't make me feel good.
You're more worried about pressure up the middle on Brock Purdy than pressure coming from the edge. I see.
100%. I mean, Jared Verse is going to be great. I thought for sure that Fultano was going to go there, because there was speculation about the Rams trying to move up. That felt like possible intel that they were getting about offensive linemen and what the run was going to be. But again, Fultano's still there. We're now on pick 20. You've got about 3 more before we get out of the range of It's 3 more when we get out of the range of the Brandon Aiyuk teams, which is Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. So there's still a lot to be decided right now. And obviously, the 49ers could sit there at 31, but this has been a very interesting draft in terms of how we're shaking out, and it's still got a little bit of drama to it.
Hey, last one before we let you go. I know you got work to do there. By the way, you got to find Aponte at Jason Aponte, a bunch of numbers. I think 2103 are the numbers. You can find him on Twitter. Fantastic handle. Love it. Niners Nation, Sprint Right Pod. What was the reaction in the building when the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr.?
Confusion.
Really?
Just straight confusion. Yeah, everyone just went, what? Like it. And what's funny is the picks are getting leaked, early. And I think there's a lot of people here that don't want to be spoiled at all.
Right.
But that one kind of went out pretty quickly, and everyone was just like, what is going on? And then obviously the news just came out that Kirk Cousins was not informed about this pick, and he's disappointed and shocked, but it's a business, and that's what really started this draft on its chaotic path. Because after that, I think Denver was just like shaking in their boots and said, "That's it, man. We can't be left in the cold trying to take Spencer Rattler later on or someone else later on."
That is Jason Aponte. Find him on Twitter, Jason Aponte 2103, and all the places, because I'm sure everyone right now watching this YouTube channel is also subscribed to Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. Appreciate you, Jason. Have fun there in Detroit, and don't go too hard tonight. We got 6 more rounds of this thing to go.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna sleep here. But thanks, Brian. Thanks, Croc. Good to see you guys, man. As always.
You bet, man. See you, buddy. Thanks for coming on. All right, that's Jason Aponte. Good stuff. Love talking to that guy. Love having beverages with him in the city of San Francisco, as we did not too long ago. Had a lot of fun there.
I had a really good time with Aponte. It was me, Aponte, my brother Donald, my guy Mike Andrews, and we were in a hotel out of Philadelphia. So I won't say too much about that whole thing, but it was a funny. No Diddy. No Diddy. All right. Well, I was in Philadelphia for the 49er game. But Aponte had a moment. So no, it was fun times with my guy Aponte always.
Any truth to this? RDC says that, Croc, you were just checking your basketball.
So I'm going back and forth. First of all, who in their right mind puts a playoff basketball game? I don't care what event it is. Why are you playing on the night of the NFL draft? Everyone knows football is king, but my Lakers are playing. We're down 0-2 to the Nuggets. I got to check in. So I'm going back and forth. The Lakers jump out to an 8-0 run, and it's like you can't even be happy about it. You can't even be excited about it because we're blowing double-digit leads in each of the first 2 games of the series. So good start for the Lakers. At least it's not bad, but none of this means anything until the last 5 minutes for me, as far as it goes with the Lakers having the lead.
Looks like the pick is in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is an offensive line team. This could be Fultano. This could be Jackson Powers-Johnson. Jackson Powers-Johnson has always felt like a Steeler to me. I thought this could be a really hot spot for a potential Brandon Aiyuk trade if the 49ers, in fact, are trading Brandon Aiyuk. But it looks like they have made a selection. What that selection is, I don't know yet. Let us know in the chat if you do know.
So let's talk about offensive line with Pittsburgh Steelers. Primarily, the 49ers, we've talked about guys they identify as 49er offensive linemen for them. And even when I did like a little mock draft and I had Jordan Morgan going to the 49ers, one of the things that he kind of lacks, aside from arm length, is like that raw power. Right? You can kind of get him with that speed to power a little bit, maybe get him back, maybe not the strongest anchor. Well, Pittsburgh Steelers are notorious for having big maulers on the offensive line. So I would assume that they would like somebody maybe a little different than the 49ers, but a guy that can go straight forward and knock bodies back. So let's see if they go more that route as opposed to, if they go O-line, of course, as opposed to, you know, a guy that moves very well in space.
A good reminder in the chat. We wanted to kind of look at who's left on the big board here. So let's bring up our big board. Let me zoom in a little bit here on this bad boy. I'm going to bring up the big board that Croc and I hammered out the other day. I think we might even be able to make some changes to this big board, Croc, just talking to you today. I think we're both on the same page with Nate Wiggins. I think we might need to move him down. I think there's some players that I think you and I would both select over Nate Wiggins. And these are we can hammer out a live war room as we're going here. Pick is in. Is it Fautanu? Someone said Fautanu.
That's the one thing that I don't care about. Like, so I have Xfinity, Comcast Xfinity, and it's no longer live. Everything is streaming. So people can see the pick. If it's Fautanu, it's Fautanu, but they're getting it before I even have a chance to really see it. When we move to our new home, and hopefully that happens in the next 2 months, I will be getting like Dish Network or something that's more live. It is live that they got Fautanu. Gosh, dog it.
You need the fiber optics. Well, there's folks at the draft that are spoiling it. So if you're on Twitter, that's probably the fastest way you're going to get it, because there's people there that have the information before anybody else, and they're putting it out there. So that's why I'm not really on Twitter right now, but I kind of like getting it from the chat. So if you know what's happening in the chat, let us know. Looks like Troy Fautanu going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick number 20. I'm not sure who the trade-up candidate would be here for the 49ers. I am confident, being that only 20 picks have been made, that at least 2 of John Lynch's 22 first-round grades are still on the board, and I have a feeling he didn't have first-round grades on 6 quarterbacks. So there's a good group of guys that I'm sure John Lynch would love to get his hands on right now, and potentially one of them is going to fall all the way to 31, and we might have to wait to find out who that is. And maybe with all of that quarterback action early in the draft, Croc, that might have informed John Lynch to not go move up for a player, knowing that someone's very likely to get a little bit closer to 31, maybe all the way to pick number 31.
I'd say with each pick, one thing that is very clear is you're getting closer and closer to keeping one Brandon Aiyuk, at least for now. Now, I have heard some people throw around Washington's second, but will Washington trade for Brandon Aiyuk? They do have Terry McLaurin. They pay Terry McLaurin as well.
Would Washington...
Do people connect 49ers and Washington because of the connection with Adam Peters? So is that like, oh, Adam Peters, he may be interested in Brandon Aiyuk, so he would give up. I think they have like pick 36 and pick 40.
Yeah, it was a combination of Adam Peters knows Aiyuk, was around to draft him, knows the 49ers. They could grease the wheels on a trade. They have 2 high second-round picks. They could make it worth without giving up a first-round pick, I think was the idea. But with their wide receiver group, I don't think Washington's that likely. I think Washington's probably more likely to trade into the first round for a player they like with those extra picks, because I think they have another extra pick as well, not just 2 seconds. I think they might have 2 thirds as well. They got a lot of extra picks because they have the Niners 3rd-round pick, right? Because they traded a bunch of guys at the trade deadline. So I would think Washington would be mobile for sure, but more so to move up in the draft, and maybe not for wide receiver, because they got Jahan Dotson and they got Terry McLaurin already. I don't know if wide receiver and Brandon Aiyuk would be the pick, but maybe he would be. We got some information from Matt Barrows through Luke Walsh. Appreciate you, Luke. He says the 49ers wanted a mid-first round pick for Aiyuk. We're at the stage when mid-round becomes late round. It's clear that any offers San Francisco got today were underwhelming. So, with every pick, it's much less and less likely that Brandon Aiyuk does get traded, which is kind of how we thought it might go, Croc. Do you want to take a look at the big board?
Got the big board up. So what guys? Okay, obviously, I mean, really, there's a lot of guys left that we have on our big board.
Yeah,
no more Jared Verse.
Jared Verse is gone. So the top. So Brian Thomas Jr., Terrion Arnold, Quentin Mitchell. Every defensive back still available, by the way. No DBs selected in 20 picks right now in this draft. So Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. Can you see this with the strike through? Maybe I should just change the color instead.
No, you can see. I mean, you can tell that
not available. Okay, kind of looks ugly to me. Quinyon Mitchell available. Terrion Arnold still on the board. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Then we got Nate Wiggins. Do we want to take Nate Wiggins off of this spot? I'm going to put him over here for a second, Croc. I would take Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton. Maybe not Kingsley. For sure, Kool-Aid worthy. I think Nate Wiggins needs to move down on our list. What do you think? How many of these guys right now, Niners are on the clock, would you take over Nate Wiggins? Not what you expect to happen, not what you think the league thinks, what you, Eric Crocker, would do.
Oh, man. Kind of a lot of them, because I think you and I, especially when we watch the film, I love the hustle, love the work ethic. Obviously, you like the testing numbers, love that. But as far as just...
You see the speed on film, but the short area and just the size, he can't, size-wise, he can't impact the run game, even if he wants to, because he'll break. And here's the thing is Xavier Worthy's 165 pounds at the combine, might have played a little heavier during the season. I think he did drop weight to run, the fastest 40 ever. But for an offensive player, it affects you. Maybe you're not running through arm tackles, but for a cornerback, they're going to run at you if you cannot tackle, right? Yeah. You can get away from it if you're a wide receiver. If you're undersized, it's a lot harder for a defensive player that can't hold up physically to just get away with it.
It definitely is. And the big part of that too, guys, just getting off blocks, right? Just being able to disengage and help in the run game. Like as the NFL level, they want guys that are going to be really they want guys that can impact the game in multiple phases, including the run game, no matter what position you're at. So even as a cornerback, I remember Coach Dennis Thurman telling me, Croc, if you let that guy block you again, I swear on my children's lives, I will send you home before this practice even ends. You'll be back in California. It's a real thing. They want you to be much more well-rounded than I think people think, and they don't want you to be a liability, even if it's just being able to disengage from a run block.
So that said, where does Nate Wiggins go right now? Would you draft Nate Wiggins? I think these next few players, Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Jackson Powers Johnson.
Chop just went to the Dolphins.
Chop gone?
That's what I'm seeing in the chat.
I don't like that one. That's the first player that hurts a little bit that thought might be there for the 49ers. I was kind of excited about what Chop Robinson could be.
They did trade away Chubb. No, they have Chubb. They got Chubb from Denver.
Yeah, and they have Phillips. Right? Mm. Yeah.
We do have a question in the chat. Big Hat Sam, he says, Mitchell isn't on your board. Our board is made up of guys that we watched. So maybe we didn't watch Mitchell.
Which Mitchell? You mean Quinyon Mitchell? He's higher. He's just not currently on the screen, but he's actually the highest player on our board.
Oh, okay. No, okay. So we did. Matter of fact, we watched him. He was maybe one of the first guys we watched.
I can't remember.
I think my thing was I couldn't find a whole lot of film on him.
Yeah, I don't think we did a deep dive episode on Locked On 49ers with Quinyon Mitchell, but he's got everything you're looking for athletically. The film is good. The Senior Bowl was locked down. Quinyon Mitchell is going to go at some point, probably be the first DB when the DBs actually start going. Quinyon Mitchell, if he's there at 31, slam dunk, send in the card. Yeah. I'm into it. Yeah, he's the highest player on our board. So let's go back to the top for those people who didn't watch our big board episode. Quinyon Mitchell, best available. Terrion Arnold, cornerback. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. We've got Cooper DeJean. We got Johnny Newton. We got Chop Robinson, who is now off the board. We've got Darius Robinson. We got Jackson Powers Johnson. We got Graham Barton. Still don't know what to do with Nate Wiggins, where to slide him in. Kingsley Suamataia, Xavier Worthy, Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's our first round grades. Ladd McConkey's in there as well. And then A.D. Mitchell, some other folks in round 2 that didn't make our top 32. And clearly, when the Niners are on the board, one of these guys is going to be the best player available. Where do you put Nate Wiggins, Croc? I put him for sure after Graham Barton right now.
Well, I know you and I had a conversation a little bit earlier, and I was like, well, I personally would take Kool-Aid over Wiggins.
Okay. Would you take Kool-Aid over Xavier Worthy?
No.
Are people, Croc, are people sleeping on Xavier Worthy?
I think so, because he's not like your ideal size. You know, he's 5'11", 165 pounds. And I think there's this, you had told me, Croc, I think you're biased against big corners because you were a big corner. I think people are biased against corners that run, receivers that run fast. And since he ran so fast, right, the fastest ever, I think people look at him as like, oh man, he's going to be like Danny Gray. Oh, he's going to be like, you can just put a name on the guys that just run fast and how people view them. And they're not viewed John Ross, they're not viewed very well. So I don't even think it's so much that they're sleeping on like the talent or what they saw from him. It's the stigma of a guy that runs so fast. And I will say this, because I see someone say, oh, people are afraid of John Ross. The weird thing is John Ross was a good prospect. And that's the part where you have to kind of look at guys at the NFL level. Like, why doesn't it work? I don't think it worked because he ran fast. I don't think it did not work for John Ross because he ran fast. There's something else, right? Like, did he get grasp of an offense? Did the team get fit for like what he does extremely well, right? Like, there's these other factors outside of, oh, he just ran so fast. Because when you watched him at Washington, he was a dynamic, skilled playmaker. Like he was. So everybody, you got to judge them individually. And if you start to kind of lump guys in because maybe they look like someone else physically or on paper, the speed, I think that's when you kind of miss out on guys. Like a lot of people on social media would have missed out on Devontae Smith because he's skinny and there's nobody like him, and he's not going to be able to do this and do that. And it's like, well, nothing in this film says that he can't be this terrific receiver. And now he's already signed an extension for $25 million a year.
I put out a tweet earlier today and I said, who do you not want your team to draft? And Xavier Worthy was a big answer. And wow. I was kind of surprised because I think he's a really good prospect, late first round, his dynamic ability. He can, unlike a lot of the burners, and the thing we're talking about with Nate Wiggins, and I agree with you. I think I would take Worthy over Nate Wiggins. The thing about Nate Wiggins, he's fast, but he's leggy in the way he runs. Xavier Worthy can make breaks and has short area quicks and can break off a route. He doesn't run like a leggy, just straight build up speed track athlete. He fast 10-yard split, 149 10-yard split, but he can also make breaks on his route. He can get deep. He can make plays after the catch. Now he's not big. He's not going to run through tackles and truck guys like Debo, but he's willing to put his shoulder down. I've seen it and actually don't even like it because I think he's going to break his damn shoulder because he'll try to truck people. And I love that about him. So, and he was productive from freshman year at Texas. I love a lot of things about Xavier Worthy. And at 31, he's worth that pick.
Yeah. And good kid. One of my buddies responded on social media and had a lot of glowing remarks to say about him and the type of player he is because he had the opportunity to coach him. His blocking. Right? Like, is the effort there? Is the ability there to block? And if not, that's something that could definitely turn Kyle off. Now, I also saw someone in the chat say, well, would Kyle use him? And I think Kyle has been looking for that guy that he can use, but he just hasn't been able to get him. I think he really wanted to use Marquise Goodwin in a way, not how he was used in the year where he almost had 1,000 yards. Like, he wanted to use him as more of a speed guy as opposed to a guy that has to be the first option in the passing game. He wasn't able to quite do that. I think when he drafted Danny Gray, I think he would have liked Danny Gray to kind of be that guy that he's able to really utilize that speed. But Danny Gray hasn't grasped the other aspects of it. And I don't think it's just the speed part of it. Is maybe the mental side. Like, does he understand what he's supposed to do on certain plays? Like, those things all factor in to if a guy plays or not and if it works out. 49ers may not be a good fit for Danny Gray, even though I didn't care for Danny Gray, but 49ers may not be a good fit for him.
I'm going to darken out some of these picks on the big board so it's a little easier to see for those folks on the stream. So, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold. We got, let's see, Brian Thomas Jr. still on the board. Cooper DeJean still on the board. Johnny
I'm
Newton.
looking at Daniel Jeremiah's big board too. Maybe kind of similar to ours. He has Terrion Arnold way up there. He has Quinyon Mitchell up there. Brian Thomas way up there. Graham Barton, Cooper DeJean. Johnny Newton, that's your guy.
Yeah.
He has Guyton, Mitchell, McKinstry, and Cooper. So, and Cooper's a guy. I don't know why I always forget that the 49ers signed Campbell, the linebacker. So I'm always thinking of like, well, you want to know when Drake Greenlaw is going to return, and you got Fred Warner, and you got some young guys, and it's like, oh, I forgot about Campbell, who hasn't been great last couple of years, but maybe he's a guy who can fit what the 49ers need to do until Greenlaw is ready. So I don't know if they go linebacker.
Eagles pick is in. Like, they're the team that's always been connected to all these defensive backs. They've even been mocked to trade up, way up for a defensive back. I gotta believe a defensive back's coming off the board at some point, and maybe 22 here to the Philadelphia Eagles. Sounds like the pick is in, so we'll find out what that is. But let's do some simple math here, Croc. So pick 22 on the board right now. So we got 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Or 31, sorry, where the 49ers are. The Niners are going to have a very good opportunity to draft one of these players, because guess what? That's how many players, that's how many picks it is until the Niners select, right? So,
yeah. And there's probably going to be a player that we don't foresee going like in the next 10 picks.
And then they're still going to draft like Roger Rosengarten or Blake Fisher or some weird pick that we don't expect. So I can't wait for that, because they're like, we had a big wow moment at 8 with Michael Penix going to Atlanta. Like, the 49ers could be that team where we're like, oh my God, they went with that guy. There's going to be a late first round Cole Strange type of a pick here, and it could be the 49ers at 31. So buckle up, guys. A lot of stuff could still happen in this draft. It could go a lot of directions, and it sounds like it is Quinyon Mitchell that is going to go to the Philadelphia Eagles here at pick number 22.
Which they probably need it, right? You got Darius Slay, you've had James Bradbury, Debo Samuel says they both suck. They're not good. So you know what, Debo? You said we sucked, and then you proceeded to go for 3 touchdowns and like 160 yards against us. Let's go get a cornerback so we can shut this guy up over there in San Francisco.
Felipe says, is it safe to say BA doesn't get traded if it doesn't get done by 24? No, not necessarily, because if you're looking at chart points, there's teams with multiple set. Like, I keep looking at the Carolina Panthers. They've got pick 33 and 39. 33 and 39 together is worth more than the pick that's on the clock right now. But it's just a question of if the 49ers like a player that is on the clock still when that trade happens. So they would have to love the guy who's on the board at 33. They're not going to trade for number 33 right now, not knowing who's there yet. But they may love the way the board falls and then feel like they get first round value in a first round player at 33 plus other picks for Brandon Aiyuk. You could still see a trade happening that way, but I do think it gets less and less, a lot less likely with every pick that Aiyuk gets traded. And if it's just a 1-for-1 pick for player, then I think we're getting pretty close to that point where, like 28 with the Buffalo Bills, like once they pick, Aiyuk's not getting traded for 1 draft pick. Is the pick in yet? I thought the pick was coming for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, Yeah,
Is it Quinyon
they're
Mitchell?
picking right now.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about some high school football.
What? Who's talking about high school football? The TV?
Roger Goodell.
Oh, yeah, Roger, you go. Boo.
Oh, then he
Boo.
has Jordan Mailata, their obviously guy, the tackle. He's picking now live from Australia. Australia is like he's on the beach in Australia, but then I don't know, it looks a little, I don't know. Doesn't look like what I would expect.
By the way, Spice Adams is going to be announcing the 49ers picks in the second and third round tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure he's going to have something a little extra to do. Former 49ers second round pick, former nose tackle for the 49ers. He was a nice player for the Niners. A must follow on the socials. Hilarious dude. And I'm stoked that he's going to be picking for the 49ers. Can't wait to, I'm going to have to for sure tune into those selections, see what he has to say. All right, Croc. So 10 picks until the 49ers select. Looking at our big board. Quinyon Mitchell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That means everybody after Kool-Aid on our big board is not in play if the 49ers had the exact same big board that we do. This draft is going great for the San Francisco 49ers, is what I have to say about that.
It's definitely going great, especially with these available players.
Kool-Aid McKinstry, Xavier Worthy, Graham Barton, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Darius Robinson, Johnny Newton, Cooper DeJean, Brian Thomas Jr., Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell. I'd be stoked for any of those guys, and I think those would all be fine selections for the 49ers value-wise at 31, and I wasn't sure if they would be selecting from one of those guys, and knowing that they are, I think is great for the Niners, and the question becomes, who do they take? Who do they love? And what's their strategy? Do they like one guy so much that they're going to move up for him still? Or can they pull off my strategy, Croc, which is selecting 2 of these 32 players? And I would probably highlight Kingsley Suamataia. Maybe McConkey slides enough. Could they draft?
You think Jackson Powers-Johnson goes in the next few picks?
I don't know, man. Apparently there's a concussion problem with Jackson Powers-Johnson that has been brought up. Does that make him slide out? I would have thought after the Senior Bowl he was a slam dunk first round pick, because at his size, he's athletic enough to play any scheme. He dominated at Oregon last year. He went to the Senior Bowl, played through a hamstring injury. Nobody plays through an injury at the Senior Bowl. You got a hangnail. You don't play. You don't participate in the Senior Bowl. He had a hamstring. He still showed up, practiced, dominated those practices, and then before bowing out. I would have thought teams would love that. He is a center, but he can play guard as well. I mean, late first round, interior offensive line is a position you can draft. I mean, he's a really good player. So there might be something else going on with him. Maybe I think he's kind of an interesting character, but I almost like his personality. I would say it's closer to like George Kittle. I saw some interviews with him and he was kind of acting like a goofball. Maybe it rubbed teams the wrong way, because I've heard that there is, maybe some interview stuff that teams didn't like about Jackson Powers-Johnson. I have no idea. I think he's a first round guy all day. And we'll see where he ends up going. But can the 49ers draft one of these guys at 31 and move back up in the second round and then get like a Kingsley Suamataia? Maybe get somebody else that's falling from this list. Maybe one of these other second round guys that we like a lot. I mean, that's my strategy for the 49ers right now. I wouldn't be moving up right now. I'd be moving up tomorrow.
Well, one thing to mention about Jackson Powers-Johnson or even Graham Barton at this point, drafting a center has the highest hit rate out of any other position in the first round.
There's been one miss in the last, how many years? Was it like?
It was like 20 years.
20 years. It was 2000 to 2019, right?
Now, there's not a whole lot of centers being drafted, but when they are drafted high and you put them at center, like those guys get a second contract.
There was only 3 positions that were over 50%, and center was 90%. Or 90 something percent. There was one miss at center. And the other two positions that were also over 50% were also offensive line. It was tackle and guard. Every other position was less than 50%. Croc, wide receiver was 27%.
By far the lowest. Wide receivers by far the lowest. But everyone tells me, oh, you don't need to draft or you don't need to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. You can just draft a receiver. Well, history shows your receiver is far less likely to receive a second contract from you, as opposed to what you know you're getting from Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, that's why, who knows? Maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up at pick 23 are going to swing a big trade for Brandon Aiyuk. Croc, there was more smoke in the last week about a Brandon Aiyuk trade than I think there was about a Debo trade 2 years ago, wasn't there? Did it feel like there was a lot? Like in the last, especially the last 48 hours, it felt like there was so many reports about Brandon Aiyuk in different scenarios, and apparently the New England Patriots are trying hard with their second round pick, which is 34, the second pick in the second round. They're trying hard to work a deal for Brandon Aiyuk. That was reported earlier today. It feels like there was a lot of smoke with a lot of different teams for a Brandon Aiyuk trade potentially today, for it not to happen after all.
Well, I think there was a lot of smoke around Debo Samuel. And I think the situation was a little bit more polarizing because, the antics behind it, for good or for bad. Remember, there was the FaceTime conversations with AJ Brown and somebody saying, oh, he's gone. And, there were all kind of things going on. And he's unfollowing the entire team or the team stuff and removing all his 49er stuff from his social medias. And then he had he was out partying or something like that. And somebody sent over he was in like the club. They sent over the sparklers and it was like, please sign back with the 49ers. So it was like someone sent him bottles. I mean, there were a lot of theatrics surrounding the Debo Samuel situation. And still, he was available. People, they act like because he ended up staying that it's a guy that, oh, see, nothing ever happens in these situations. No, the 49ers just didn't get something that they felt was good enough. And I think right now what we're seeing is the 49ers haven't gotten anything that they feel is good enough for Brandon Aiyuk as well.
Brian Thomas Jr. is the pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They will not be trading for Brandon Aiyuk. 23rd selection in the 2024 NFL Draft for Trent Baalke's Jacksonville Jaguars is Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Croc. So that means there's 8 picks to go before the San Francisco 49ers select at number 31, and it is the Dallas Cowboys that are now on the clock at pick number 24. Looking at our big board, Terrion Arnold's up there, and he's a guy that is almost always mocked to go before we get to pick 24, Croc. Talk to me about Terrion Arnold. Talk to me about Cooper DeJean. Talk to me about Nate Wiggins and Kool-Aid McKinstry. How do you see these defensive backs? How come these defensive backs are sliding in this NFL draft compared to the consensus draft boards?
Well, none of these guys, when I watch them, nothing jumped out about them. And a lot of times with cornerbacks, you kind of get a sense for, some star power from some of them or, the things that they do extraordinarily well. And I think especially with the guys that are left, it's like, man, they do this good. They do this good. Is it enough to where you're going to draft this guy in the first round for a position that's extremely difficult to play? Like the NFL doesn't want you to be a good defensive back. The rules work against you. So is this guy good enough to offset how the NFL game is today? And I would say outside of Cooper DeJean, who is listed as a cornerback, I would say, it's probably harder to find like that guy. Now, even with Coop, again, I like him at corner. I love him at the safety position. So if he was viewed as a safety or if he was listed as a safety, he might be going off the board already. But because he's a cornerback, and there's some things when you watch just from a movement skill standpoint, not so much in the overall athleticism, but kind of what it looks like at the cornerback position and the scheme that he played in. I bet there are some teams that were like, we're not quite as high on him as social media was.
I just want to make sure I get this out there. Palin Ramsey for the folks, so they see it and they know where it came from first. He is an undercooked Jalen Ramsey, I think, is what potentially Cooper DeJean could be in the NFL. Could he get to the San Francisco 49ers? That'd be a fun selection for them. I want the Dallas Cowboys to screw this up somehow. What are the Dallas Cowboys needs? Let us know in the chat. What are the Dallas Cowboys needs? They could go wide.
Hopefully they draft a punter. They won't do that. I think they have Brian Anger. Is that his name?
Angerer. I appreciate it. Akshay says this stream is awesome. A lot of good insight with the two of the best. Make sure everyone likes them. Subscribe. Appreciate you, Akshay, for that. Fantastic. Offensive line is really usually what gets mocked to the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're a sneaky team that could go pick a 4-2-1 speed guy in Xavier Worthy, get a little different sort of a player than CeeDee Lamb for their offense as well. No telling what the Dallas Cowboys will do. I will say though, Croc, the Jones family, they get a lot of grief and they do things their own way, but they draft pretty well, especially early. Like they do a pretty good job. Like if there's a player that's like clearly the best player available, they'll take him right now. Yeah, and maybe that's Terrion Arnold right now.
One thing with the Dallas Cowboys, you can't knock them for not having good rosters. Like they always have good rosters. That's why they're always like a favorite. You know, they were favorites of ours last year. But I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's Dak Prescott shrinking kind of in the moment. But they are a team that definitely falls short as opposed to a team that is just not talented. So it would actually not surprise me at all if they were to go Xavier Worthy here. You saw they tried to kind of go speed route with Brandon Cooks, couldn't quite get in that rhythm. If you were to tell me right now they try to find a receiver opposite CeeDee Lamb or a guy that really truly complements him and go on the draft where you kind of get cheaper, especially when you're about to pay CeeDee Lamb a ton of money, I can see them doing that.
Well, Croc is not going to be the Dallas Cowboys because the Detroit Lions have traded in to pick number 24. What are the Lions up to here? They've gone from 29. Got to be like everybody in the world has put cornerbacks to the Dallas Cowboys in their mock drafts. So I got to believe DB is where the Lions are at here. And that's why they moved up from pick 29 to pick number 24. Terrion Arnold, Cooper DeJean, maybe I don't think Nate Wiggins fits Dan Campbell persona, right? Defensive player for sure. For the Lions here.
So the pick is in. I'm not even going to look at the chat. I want to be surprised when I see who they pick, but Campbell is a tough guy. I like him. I wish I was like that, with me coaching and everything like this, just big, physically imposing, chewing tobacco, coach, bulging shoulders. Have that, but I'm just not. I'm like the opposite, actually.
Don't sleep on your shoulders, Croc. You've been putting in work at the gym. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows.
Yeah. I actually kind of hurt. I was doing back today, and I don't know if I pulled down wrong, but something with the shoulder here. Babe, I might need a massage tonight because it's like right here.
She already brought you a beverage, Croc. I think you might be.
I'm all out of the beverage. She hasn't refilled me. This terrible bartender.
I don't even have anybody to help me out with that. I'm just going to have to go water until the 49ers pick, apparently, because I'm stuck here. Might have to take a little break. So we got the Detroit Lions on the clock at pick 24.
So we were talking about it being Wiggins, but I do see in the chat it's Arnold. And I guess Arnold would be, coming from where he coming from, right? Alabama being coached by Nick Saban, kind of like that rougher style, high standards. And I think what Detroit's trying to do too is like build a team with guys that understand high standards, what we're trying to do. Like, dude, we were in the NFC Championship game up 24-7 and lost. There's got to be this sense of urgency and these super high standards that they have going into this year. And you need to draft guys that understand what that looks like. And I think Alabama players definitely do. So, again, I'm trying not to look at the chat. I saw Arnold's name pop up. We'll see if he is in fact the guy.
I think that's speculation in the chat.
Speculation.
Terrion Arnold. I don't think we have an official word yet on if it is or if it is not Terrion Arnold. There will like Arnold and Kool-Aid both. I think they're pretty close for me. Everyone seems to love Arnold more. I liked the tape from Kool-Aid and McKinstry. I think they're both really well coached and really ready to play in the NFL.
There were a lot of guys that felt like Arnold was going to be like a top 15 pick.
Athletically, they didn't test all that different, and that's why Arnold's still available. If we're being honest, like if you're gonna, people aren't going to draft a corner that ran 4.5, right? I think he ran 4.51 at the combine. Let me double check here. And Kool-Aid had the injury, the foot injury, didn't run at the combine, and he ended up running 4.47 at his pro day. Terrion Arnold ran 4.50 flat at the combine. That's
not very fast he's slightly built though, right?
And he's not that big. He's 5'11 3/4 and 189 pounds. So you put a pound on him and you say he's 5, you even give him the 6 foot. 6 foot 190, 4.50 flat. That's not necessarily a top half of the first round physical prototype.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of Mike Hughes. Mike Hughes some years ago coming out of UCF. He was a guy that didn't run quite well. Still ended up being a first round pick, but was selected around 23-ish, I believe, 24. Actually picked off Jimmy Garoppolo, pick 6 in that Minnesota Vikings game. That was Hughes' rookie year, 2018. But definitely not a guy that goes like super high. I think it was actually surprising that Jeff Okudah, because remember, Okudah did not run necessarily extremely well, and he still went top 5. And that's something you typically don't see.
Yeah. And I think I heard him in the NFL. Quinyon Mitchell, on the other hand, 6 feet and an eighth, 195, ran 4.33. So yeah, I think the tape is good for Terrion Arnold, but that's why he lasted to pick 24. If he is even the pick at 24, because he just didn't quite test like you need a corner to test to mirror the wide receivers in this league.
We got Ellie Arnold.
Terrion Arnold?
Yeah.
Terrion Arnold. That's the pick.
And the shades have been a theme this draft. The guys in the war room with the shades on. And it may or may not be. I think we can contribute to this one guy that maybe started that.
Trey Lance.
Yeah. Like, did we see guys with the shades in the war room before Trey Lance? I don't think I saw that.
No, I can't remember that. You got to go back to Corey Hart in the 1980s. Had the hit song "I Wear My Sunglasses at Night."
Yeah. The shades in the war room. And they take them off. Well, some of them. I saw a couple still. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., he wore them on the stage, but a couple of them took the shades off. Nice suit, though. Look at that suit. That's sweet, huh, babe?
Hey, Croc, if you need a refill, go ahead and I'll handle this. And when you get back, I'll go.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah. I can tell you're thirsty over there. Croc hitting the Stockton wings and pizza combo, going Jack and Coke tonight. Let me know what you all are drinking and eating as you go through your draft party. We got to wait. We had to wait all the way to pick 31 potentially for the San Francisco 49ers to make their selection. I'm going to bring the big board back up for us here as we take a look at who's available for the San Francisco 49ers as we reach pick 25 and those Green Bay Packers. The most common projection to the Packers at 25 has been Cooper DeJean throughout this process. So I wonder if the Packers have been pretty good at not really letting people know what the pick was going to be. And I don't think people have been very good at guessing who the Packers are going to take in recent history. Certainly nobody thought they were going to take Jordan Love a few years ago. So here is our draft board now, updated. Terrion Arnold is now off the board, which means Cooper DeJean is actually the number one guy left on the board for the Niners. So 6 picks away. Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Darius Robinson, Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton, Xavier Worthy, Kool-Aid McKinstry. One of those players will be available for the San Francisco 49ers at 31. Will they select one of those players? That remains to be seen. Could they move up? Could they move down if too many of those guys? I think there's a good chance that one of John Lynch's 22 first-round grades is still available right now. I mean, I would guarantee it basically at this point because I don't think he's got 6 quarterbacks on his board, and we're only at pick 25. Which of these players is on the board as a first-round grade for the 49ers is the question. Oh, Jordan Morgan. See, I knew the Brian Middlecop. You know what? I got to go to Twitter right now and tweet something at my guy Peter Bukowski because apparently Brian in the chat says Peter Bukowski hated Jordan Morgan and didn't think he was a fit for the Packers. He's a versatile player, shorter armed guy. Does he stick at tackle? His tape was just solid, but something left me wanting more when I was watching Jordan Morgan. He is now a Green Bay Packer at pick number 25. He was not on my board, so that means there's even more guys here that I love for the 49ers at pick 31 that will be available. Cooper DeJean among them. Jordan Morgan, he was down here in our group of second-round guys we were looking at for the 49ers. I think he's more of a finesse type of a guy. He's got good feet. He's solid. Maybe he could stick at tackle. He's got the athletic ability to play tackle. He's played a lot of football at the University of Arizona, but he just didn't have like pop in his hands that I thought would be a knockback player playing interior offensive line, playing guard, and like nastiness there, and just doesn't quite have the arm length to project to be, a great tackle in the NFL. But very interesting pick there at 25 by the Green Bay Packers. Croc, and I think you actually had mocked earlier today. You had mocked Jordan Morgan to the 49ers at pick 31, did you not?
Yeah, I did, and I thought just from a movement skill standpoint, I thought he was good from a movement skill standpoint for the 49ers. I went out and watched Arizona University week 1 this past season. Watched my guy Jonah Coleman, who's now at Washington, but I remember him coming out and saying, like, all these NFL scouts, they're coming through because they want our tackle. Like, he's a first-round tackle. And he continued to say that to me throughout the year. First-round tackle, first round. He's going first round. So I expected him to go first round. But the reason why I thought he potentially may slip to the Niners was, the arm length. It's below what you ideally want for a tackle. Now, Green Bay is interesting because they had some guys really step up, young guys on that offensive line that were ready to go, and to see them go O-line, just a little interesting. They do have young, talented O-line, and sounds like they're adding another one. But like Farrell says in the chat, Graham Barton and Jackson Powers Johnson still available on the board for the Niners. And my draft crush for the Niners, and I hope they don't mess it up by saying, all right, we're going to draft you and play you at corner, but I'm still excited about the thought of potentially getting Cooper DeJean. There was somebody on Twitter was like, Cooper DeJean, no way in hell he lasts to the 49ers pick. That's why crazy things happen on draft day. You don't know how the NFL views a guy. He's very available right now.
5 more picks, Croc, until the 49ers are on the clock at 31 if they don't trade up. That means going by our draft board. Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Darius Robinson, Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton, Xavier Worthy, Kool-Aid McKinstry. One of those guys, 2 of those guys are going to be there for the 49ers. Darius Robinson, we love. Johnny Newton, I love. You love less, maybe? You liked him when we did our deep dive, though. I think you just maybe like Darius Robinson a hair more than Johnny Newton. Is that right?
I've seen the fit so much with Darius Robinson, like just that guy and what he does. And there have been a lot of people like, oh, well, why the 49er fans like Darius Robinson, he's like Solomon Thomas, his counter report. Like, well, if you would told me I get Solomon Thomas at 31 as opposed to number 3 and I'm passing on all pros, then yeah, like that's different. Hey, Solomon Thomas at 31. Oh yeah, I like it. Okay, he's an inside outside guy. Like, cool. Stout veteran, great. But at 3, it's like, well, no, I need a game changer at 3. And I would never draft Robinson at 3. Right. So just kind of what he brings, the role he plays, solidifying for the long haul as opposed, and I just watched my guy Jonah Coleman score a touchdown. They're showing Morgan right now. Jonah, shout out to my guy Jonah, man. I've coached him since he was a kid, 7-on-7, been around him, coached against him in high school football. And it's been great going to his games. I want to go to his games at Washington, at least one, babe. Can I go to Washington? Because I always have to ask you.
Don't say it like that to the people.
My wife is the warden.
Wow, come on, Stevie, let him go.
But gosh, I forgot what I was talking about.
Hey, Croc, I want her to know that we know that she lets you go all around the country. Like, I know you've been in every state in the world over the course of the last year doing football stuff. I want you to tell her that we know that she allows you to do that.
Peacock said he wants you to know that you allow me to really travel all over the United States and do football things. And he said everybody's aware that it's you that allows me to do it.
Oh, it 100% is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Graham Barton is off the board, Croc.
Uh-oh.
The center/tackle/guard out of the University of Duke has gone to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at pick number 26 in the 2024 NFL draft, which means the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock again in the first round now at pick number 27. I'm going to let you take this stream over, Croc, for a minute as I go refill before the San Francisco 49ers come up in just a few picks here.
Gotcha. All right. It's my show now. You guys see who's available on our big board. Who is your favorite there? We got Cooper DeJean. We got Johnny Newton. Johnny Newton, now that's Peacock's guy. I think if it's up to Peacock, he may go Jackson Powers Johnson, but I definitely think he loves the thought and idea of being able to have Johnny Newton. Darius Robinson, obviously I'm a big fan of his. You still got Cooper DeJean. If it was up to me, he would be the pick. When I look at the 49ers in the safety position, it's not even just a sneaky need. I feel like it's a glaring need. And it's even more glaring to get a guy that can be impactful, make plays, has versatility. You want him at safety and base downs, he's that guy. You want him at nickel, he's that guy. You want him to be stout first to run in nickel and be able to make tackles, he's that guy. I think there's so many things that Cooper DeJean does well. You want him guard tight ends, you want him guard slot receivers, he can do that. I don't necessarily want to have him on the outside, but man, a lot of stuff that he does, I feel like I just value it a lot. And I hope the 49ers value it as much as me. Clearly right now, the NFL is telling me they don't value it as much. But man, Cooper DeJean, I'm surprised that, not surprised he's still on the board, but definitely a guy I saw. Maybe potentially could be there. Darius Robinson, I'm really big on him. And a lot of people ask me, like, Croc, why are you so big on him? I see in the chat right now, Justin says, Croc, would you rather have Ladd McConkey or Darius Robinson at 31? That is a great question. I think my heart tells me Darius Robinson. My mind and where I feel like the NFL is going, and I think we saw that with the first 14 picks in this draft, says go off and go Ladd McConkey or Xavier Worthy, but a guy that is going to be dynamic and really open up what the 49ers want to do offensively. The Cardinals, oh no, they robbed me and took my guy Darius Robinson. So the Cardinals took Darius Robinson. He's off the board, which again, you continue to have guys slide down for the San Francisco 49ers. I wonder if this is working out how the 49ers wanted to. Darius Robinson, definitely a guy I like at this range for what he does. And I feel like what the 49ers need. I didn't care to watch the 49ers the way they were kind of getting blown up in that run game. I didn't care to watch that, but I see where the NFL is going, and it's always been obviously you want to score more points than the opponents, but I think that the offense now is leading the way. Now, Jackson Pinner in the chat says, would Worthy fit with Brock's playstyle? I think so, and here's why. We have seen Brock Purdy take shots downfield, but I watched a guy by the name of Tua Tagovailoa, and Tua doesn't have the biggest arm, not the most dynamic, explosive, or power thrower. But man, you see what that speed does for the offense of Miami all over the place. He utilized it. And there were a lot of throws, man. You can watch Tyreek Hill have to wait on balls, slow down for balls, but it didn't matter, man. They had all those explosive plays. So would Brock Purdy and the 49ers take advantage of having a guy that has that type of field stretching ability like Xavier Worthy? I think so. I think so. Also keeping an eye on my Los Angeles Lakers. I know there's a lot of Warrior fans in the chat right now. Lakers up 53-45. I'm probably behind because of, for whatever reason, Xfinity streams now. So I am behind, but it's pretty cool watching the Lakers right now. Can't be too excited though, because I've seen this the first two games. 49ers up double digits and still lose. So that's tough. Let's go back to the NFL draft. Oh, Lakers, excuse me. Let's go back to the NFL draft though.
All right. I had to put Croc in timeout for talking about the Lakers on my live stream, so he's not going to be on the screen for 5 more seconds. All right, Croc is back. Yeah, my headphones, and the first word I hear is Lakers.
Oh no, I mean I've been talking about the draft, and then I look up and I'm like, okay, Lakers, and I do hate this. So I would actually love to see in the chat, what service do y'all use so that you're live? I can't even. Xfinity is so far behind because they just stream now. I have a cable box, but it's not even. It still streams. So what service do y'all use to where you are live with everything going on?
So you're plugged straight in. So you're still wireless basically, but even with your
cable it's TV. Plugged straight in. I got the cable cord that goes from the wall to the box and the box to the TV, and it's still streaming though. I'm 45 seconds minimum behind.
Hey Croc, you watched Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia?
I did not. That's not a guy we touched on.
Yeah, we didn't do a deep dive on him. I've watched a little bit of him. I've heard glowing things about his smarts and his character. He was a player that the 49ers brought in for a 30 visit, and he's a player I didn't get to, and he's a player that I'm absolutely going to be getting to tomorrow before day 2, because I think he's absolutely in play for the San Francisco 49ers, and safety is a position I think the Niners are into. And I think he's a player that could go pretty high. And I think on some draft boards, he might be the top safety in this class. And the 49ers did a lot of 30 visit work on second round guys. And on a stream I did earlier today, Croc, I talked about what it felt like the 49ers plan was. And it felt like the 49ers plan was that they were going to be selecting a player at some point between 31 and 63, which meant either they were going to go down from 31 or they're going to go up from 63, because there was probably half a dozen players on their 30 visits list, the best ones on there as far as the consensus board goes, that were players that were probably not going to be picks at 31, but could be a couple of them, and would almost certainly not be available by the time they picked again at pick 63. In fact, I think Javon Bullard hey, you know what I'll do here? I'm going to go ahead and bring up my tweet about it, because I can't remember what exactly the numbers were. And
while you're bringing that up,
yeah,
Darius Robinson was selected by the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh man, I don't like that. I don't like the Cardinals going and getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and Darius Robinson. Those are two really good players for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, is Darius Robinson going to live in the backfield? No. But you know what he's going to do is he's going to probably do a good job trying to stop that San Francisco 49ers run game.
Oh, they're going to line him up over Trent Williams and be like, look, Trent Williams is the bully. Just don't let him bully you. Can you just set the edge when they try to run left? They run left 90% of the time because McKivitz on the other side. They can't run his way. So you're going to run here. I want you to be stout versus this and force everything back inside.
So Darius Robinson is off the board now. For the 49ers at pick 31, he goes 27 to the Arizona Cardinals. It's a good pick by them.
I do like this because it kind of validates like my love for him. Like there were a lot of people telling me he's not even a first round pick.
He was invited to the combine. I mean, he was invited to the draft, Croc. He's one of the people that are there. Nobody else that was there is a player that you would expect to not be drafted in the first round. So when I saw that, I was like, well, this guy's a lock. He's going in the first round of the draft. Yeah. And that's what a lot of the insiders have said recently. Is like, yeah, Darius Robinson's gonna be a first round guy. They wouldn't invite all first round players and then one second round player to the draft, right? They would either draft a whole bunch of second round player or invite a whole bunch of second round players that might be around the next day, or none. And I think they invited what they thought would be 0 second round picks.
I'm watching this guy's. They're showing his highlights, but this is what we saw when we watched him. They're actually showing a lot of stuff as a pass rusher, bending the edge, but it's so clear he's so strong. And they're showing him at the Senior Bowl just dominating, and he's rushing from the interior and he's rushing from the outside. How do you not, as a 49er fan, how do you not say, oh man, this is a guy that the 49ers should like really look into? Like, how do you not say this is a guy I would like to see him on the 49ers? Just big, strong guy.
All right, Croc, here we go. Of the 49ers reported 25 of 30 visits. So you're allowed 30 visits to your team each draft season. And the 49ers, so far, we've got 25 of those 30 that have been reported, thanks to Steph Sanchez at Steph49K, who's been paying attention to those sort of things. Nate Wiggins is one of those, and he is by far the highest on the consensus board. In fact, he's the only first-round player on consensus draft boards. The consensus board I'm going by is Arif Hassan puts it out, and he takes all the top analysts and takes their draft boards, and then puts together a consensus of what those draft boards are. Nate Wiggins, the highest on that list at 24. Nobody else is among the top 32 of the consensus board that the 49ers brought in for a 30 visit of the reported visits, unless the other 5 guys that somehow kept secret were also happen to be first round guys. So they've been doing a lot of work on sort of quote unquote second round guys, which are Xavier Legette, 42 on the consensus board, Kingsley Suamataia, 43 on the consensus board, Chris Braswell, edge rusher, outside backer type of a guy, stand-up rusher from Alabama, 54, Marshawn Nealand, 60, and Javon Bullard, 63 on the consensus draft board. Which is why I theorized, Croc, that either they don't want to tip their hand to the players they like in the first round, or they're doing a lot of work on second round guys because they're hoping one falls to them at 63, or they're doing all this work because they think they're going to be mobile in this draft and maybe move up and get a guy. And that's my favorite strategy. Like, could the 49ers look at our big board right now, Croc? I'm going to bring it back up on the screen. The 49ers are absolutely in a fantastic position to potentially draft 2 of the players that are left on our top 32. Darius Robinson, now gone. Let me mark him off the list. So, Croc, that leaves Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Jackson Powers Johnson, Xavier Worthy, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, Kingsley Suamataia, Ladd McConkey. Could the 49ers draft one of those guys at 31, then move up from 63 and still get, say, Kingsley Suamataia? I mean, that is the home run draft for me for the 49ers, and it's setting up perfectly for them to be able to do that.
Definitely. And the good thing about that, at least for our Locked On 49ers show, make sure you guys, if you're not tuned into that 5 days a week, become Matchy Live. We will have a show or an episode or at least a segment dedicated to one of these guys. So you can hear our non-biased breakdown, right? Because I think after the pick, you hear the pick and then there's a guy, and now we want to talk about all the great things about him. But you listen to one of those episodes and you get kind of the raw, unfiltered version of a guy that we don't maybe anticipate being a 49er, but just how we think about him in the moment while watching his film.
I'm going to throw the link in the chat, by the way, to Locked On 49ers, because we're going to be doing a live Locked On 49ers after this stream, after the 49ers pick and after the Chiefs pick at the end of the round. We're going to shut down this stream, and then we're going to finish up the night on Locked On 49ers, breaking down whatever happens with the 49ers here the rest of round one. Could they move out of the round completely? Will they move up with the last couple of picks, or who will they take at pick 31? We'll have it covered for you. And we'll, of course, we'll talk about the pick first immediately and have that immediate reaction right now when that pick does happen, if it does happen. And somebody said something happened? Oh, so we got the Chiefs moved up with the Buffalo Bills. This is Tyler Guyton territory for me. Chiefs like their size on the offensive line. I think they wanted to get up in front of probably all three teams here, Cowboys, Ravens, 49ers, that might be taking an offensive tackle at the end of round one. Tyler Guyton's still available, right? He feels like a Chiefs player to me. Is he the best?
We don't want it to be Worthy. We don't want it to be McConkey, right? Because for the 49ers, even though typically you think about the guys in your division, in your conference, but right now the 49ers expectations are Super Bowl, and it feels like the team that you have to gear up to beat will be you got to look at Kansas City, right? Like, okay, we got to beat Kansas City. And if they're just getting faster, right? Like this, and that's the tough thing about the loss last year. It almost heading into it felt like, well, this is the worst you're going to see Kansas City. So you have to like strike now, and you still lost. And all they're going to do now is like, all right, we got Rashae Ross going through legal situations, but you got Rashae Ross. Let's get better at the receiver position outside of him. Hey, let's add Xavier Worthy. Let's add McConkey. Let's add some speed that we've kind of been missing. Now you got Rashae Rice. Now you got Travis Kelce, and you have a true speedster. That would be dangerous. So hopefully that's not what they're doing. Yeah. I'd rather them go O-line. And I think, again, a lot of the 49 fans would focus on the 49ers and the offensive line in the Super Bowl. You don't focus quite on Kansas City and their O-line. Patrick Mahomes was sacked more. Patrick Mahomes was pressured more. Patrick Mahomes, he had an intentional grounding because he was flushed out of a pocket. He was under duress. The offensive line may be something that they want to do there.
Croc.
No.
The pick is in.
Why are you going to Xavier Worthy?
And it's your worst nightmare. Xavier Worthy has been selected by the Kansas City Chiefs at pick number 28 after moving up to jump in front of the San Francisco 49ers, among others, and make that pick at number 28. So Xavier Worthy, yeah, and that was the fear. I was hoping it was Tyler Guyton. I was hoping it was a tackle. It's a little bit scarier if they got a dynamic wide receiver, and Xavier Worthy it is for the Kansas City Chiefs at pick number 28.
Someone said, "Are they behind?" I've stated several times so far on the stream. I have Xfinity, and it's Xfinity cable, but for whatever reason, I am behind. This is not the Xfinity I remember.
We got another pick that's in, Croc, back to back. That was quick. Tyler Guyton going to the Dallas Cowboys. The very next pick at number 29.
Okay, so
we're the one pick away from the San Francisco 49ers selection. Xavier Worthy off the board. Tyler Guyton. I didn't like him as much. I could have seen him being a pick for the 49ers at pick 31. But he is off the board anyway. So now we got Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, Kingsley Suamataia, Lad McConkey. That's the end of our top 32 big board. I would say it comes more down to these top four guys for me. It's Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Kool-Aid McKinstry. One of those four guys for the Niners here at 31, then come back up and double dip in this group, Croc. Cooper DeJean. Talk to us one more time, Croc, about Cooper DeJean's role in the 49ers defense. You like him? Could he play outside corner, then move inside? Does he play pure nickel and then Diamador Lenore plays outside? I like your idea, though, of just safety, then drop down and play nickel and bring in Jair Brown or Hufanga, and Hufanga might not be ready to start the season either. Like, the Niners are going to add a safety. It might be Justin Simmons after the draft. It might be Javon Bullard in the second round. It might be Cooper DeJean at 31. Niners are going to add a safety.
I just really like the thoughts of Palin Ramsey. And again, I like him as a corner. So the 49ers are like, all right, we want to draft Cooper DeJean and him be an outside corner. Oh, okay, cool. But I love him as a safety / star player. Put him in that nickel spot. He's stout. He'll be good from the run from there. He can cover slots. He can cover tight ends. He's a strong player. I love the thoughts of having him as a 2-high safety, a guy that can play with vision with his eyes and understand and read concepts. There's a lot to like from that standpoint with Cooper DeJean. And I feel like he gives you more value being able to do multiple things as opposed to just being like, just go outside and play corner. And then the thing that we're not, again, it's something that people overlook, but the 49ers, there's no more Ray McCloud. And he was a solid returner, not great, but he was solid. And he held it down for a couple years. There is no more McCloud. So who do you have as a returner? Well, Cooper DeJean, he's a good returner. He's an athletic guy. He has that explosiveness, especially straight line speed. So I think there's a lot of things that I like about the pick and the different ways and different elements that he affects in the game if he is a 49er.
Ultimately, Croc with the cornerback group, we like Diamador Lenore at nickel and potentially somebody else at outside corner. If it's, say, Kool-Aid or Nate Wiggins or whoever, Demo inside would be the plan, right? And if the 49ers, say, didn't draft a corner or something, it would be Demo with Isaac Yiadom or Rock Ya-Sin outside. Would that be the plan? Or Demo outside, then when it goes to nickel, Demo moves inside, and then one of those guys comes in and plays outside?
Yeah, well, I think the 49ers definitely like the idea of competition and guys competing for a spot. Whereas Ambry Thomas, it could be, Isaac Yiadom. There's another guy that they got. Was it Jack Jones? Who? There's another corner that they signed, but I think it's Jack Jones.
That the 49ers signed?
Yeah. There was one of those guys like an Arizona State or USC former corner, and he was in the NFL with one team, and then the 49ers picked him up, and it kind of went under the radar. I don't even think we really talked about it.
I don't even remember. I might have missed
that. I don't think we talked about it.
It was a player that could be potentially have a role, startable player?
I don't know about startable.
Not Jack Jones. Jack Jones was the guy from the Patriots and then got traded somewhere, right?
Okay, so not Jack Jones. Is one of these guys. I don't know if you're able to see some of the transactions they made this offseason.
Chase Lucas?
Chase Lucas. There we go. See, I said Arizona State. There we go. Yeah, I said Arizona State.
Man, I got to shout out RDC, Visalia, California guy. He's been on it in this chat. He's got all the answers. So appreciate it.
Let's go. RDC or DC. I don't even have the chat up right now. I can't see the chat. I just have it on private chat. So I can't see the chat because they're ahead of us.
Yeah. Guyton, we're still talking about Guyton in the chat, is the pick to the Dallas Cowboys.
Where is he from? I bet he's maybe from Texas.
Tyler Guyton?
Why? Look at one of his family members is wearing 49er stuff. 49er hat, 49er faithful shirt.
Oh, so that was the play, right? The Kansas City Chiefs jumped in front of the 49ers. I think the Ravens could have for sure gone with an offensive tackle too. So, that was clearly the play by the Chiefs or by the Cowboys to stay in front of those teams when they traded back.
Let's see where Tyler. Yeah, as expected, Tyler Guyton. He's from Texas. So you're from Texas and you get drafted to the Dallas Cowboys. That's like
played at Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I think he transferred from TCU.
Oh, did he? I didn't realize that. Man, many transfers. I'm blown away about how many guys. Usually, first round guys aren't big transfer guys, but I mean,
TCU
transfer from somewhere.
TCU 2020, 2021, then Oklahoma 22 and 23. Talk about transfer, man. My guy Jaden Rashada. Rashada is a true freshman right now. He committed to Florida. The money wasn't quite right with NIL. Then he decommitted and went to Miami. Then something weird happened. Decommitted from there. and was actually like he went out there and then committed to Arizona State, played at Arizona State, got hurt maybe a quarter of the way through the season, said, I'm out of here, and left. And now he just signed with Georgia today. So when you talk about these guys going to these different schools, I think we're just going to continue to see a lot of that because right now with the NIL, it's pretty much free agency.
Croc, the San Francisco 49ers are on the clock. It sounds like the pick to Baltimore at pick number 30 is cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, which I like because they were not on the top of our list for the San Francisco 49ers. As long as I'm not seeing the wrong reports here in the chat, I'm going to trust the chat on this one. Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Jackson Powers Johnson, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I would be probably pretty upset or pretty disappointed if it's not one of those four players for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think there's a better than 50% chance that one of these four players, Croc, that I just mentioned, Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, Jackson Powers Johnson, Kool-Aid McKinstry, there's a better than 50% chance that one of those players was one of John Lynch's 22 first-round grades in this draft.
I want Cooper DeJean.
I mean, I think it's a home run draft already if you draft one of those guys. And I think the only way the Niners can screw this up is if they do something weird and force offensive tackle, with a Rosengarten pick or, just something really out there.
Is there an offensive lineman available? Oh, well, Jackson Power Johnson. So, okay, let's try to, out of the guys available, can we make kind of organize this big board?
Yeah.
You got Cooper DeJean. We have the highest.
Yeah.
Johnny Newton. I know that's your guy.
That's my guy.
Jackson Power Johnson. I'm not even sure we really expected him to be here right now. I thought it may be possible. Then you talked about the health issues.
Yeah.
Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think we got Kool-Aid between Kool-Aid, Kingsley Suamataia, and Lab McConkey. I think we expected kind of those guys to be in this range.
Yeah. So for Croc, for you, clearly it'd be Cooper DeJean here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And
as safety. Now, if you and I, we go and we report, they give us our credentials and we're out there for training camp and I see Cooper at cornerback. Again, I won't hate it.
Outside corner.
Yeah, outside corner. I won't hate it, but I would not love it. I love the thought of him being Palen Ramsey.
Yep. Johnny Newton would be my pick here. I like Newton. I think he's the best pass rusher. I think it's the most difference-making position as long as his medicals check out. I know he had the foot thing, wasn't able to work out. I don't need to see his workouts to know he's a dynamic playmaker inside as a pass rusher, as a defensive tackle, can hold up against the run as well, even though he's not like a nose tackle or anything like that. And then again, I'm trying to move up. If Jackson Powers Johnson falls, move up and get him. If Kool-Aid falls, move up and get him. If Cooper DeJean falls, move up and get him. If Kingsley Suamataia, much more likely, falls, go up and get him into the 40s, into the 50s, wherever that might be. This is really setting up to be a home run draft for the 49ers here with who's left on the board, because I really wasn't sure that any of these top four guys, Croc, would be available for the 49ers at this pick.
Now, I'm not showing the comments, so don't spoil it with what they're saying in the comments. I want to see this pick live. Everyone in the chat right now, I am clearly behind you guys. Okay, it might be by a minute or so. So I'm not looking at you guys in the chat right now. There's actually, it says 100 comments that are in there. So there's 100 comments I'm missing because I'm clicked out of there. But I am excited to kind of see who the 49ers pick.
I can't wait for the 49ers to shock us. Do you remember last year, Croc? And I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm looking at the chat. I might see it before you. But I'm going to wait until you see it, Croc, before we say anything about it. So, Croc, you get to announce the pick to us, right? As soon as you know what the pick is, you announce it to us. All right?
Okay.
Do your best Spice Adams that we're going to see tomorrow and announce what the pick is to us. And I think a lot of the folks that are watching might already know what the pick is, but I'm going to wait until you announce it. And I can't wait for the 49ers to shock us. I remember the look on your face and your response when I told you last year in round 3 that Jake Moody was the pick at 99. You thought I was messing around with you,
Yeah.
and I wasn't. That was the
And the funny thing, there were people that kind of alluded to the fact that, like, oh, they might take Jake Moody. You know, there were people like, oh, I want Jake Moody. I want Jake Moody. I'm like, dude, do not draft a kicker third round. Just don't do it.
one of those 4 guys. The Niners can't screw it up, and the board has fallen really nicely for them here at pick 31. And offensive tackle isn't one of those players for me, Croc, right here. I like Kingsley Suamataia. I like some of the second round options, but the tackles went early. It wasn't for the 49ers here. There's a couple of players I wouldn't be upset about that are maybe not, they're a little bit outside of what we're talking about here. Someone in the chat mentioned Leggett. I wouldn't be completely upset with Leggett. I think there might be a better option here. I think,
and he visited the 49ers.
He visited the 49ers, yeah. But I think the 49ers could, again, come up and get one of those wide receivers. They could draft a guy here, come up and still get McConkey. They could come up and get Leggett. They've got 3 4th-round picks. They've got a pick at number 94. The Niners have been terrible at the end of the 3rd round drafting players. They should trade pick 94 if they have to go up and get one of these guys. There's a ton of wide receivers that are still on the board, Croc. So
did the 49ers see they didn't visit with Cooper DeJean, huh?
No, but this is part of my theory, Croc. They didn't visit with the guys they want to draft in the 1st round because they didn't want to tip teams off. They visited with the 2nd round guys. Yeah. So either they're moving down or they're moving up to get one of those guys because they didn't want to tell the league the players that they were really eyeballing at the end of round 1.
Especially when it's this late, because what is it for, I don't know, the New England Patriots to say, oh man, the 49ers like Cooper DeJean, or the 49ers like when he's got, let's move up, 4 spots and jump before the 49ers. Because we view it as, oh, it's the 1st round and then, it ends after pick 32. But really, some of these teams, they only pick 4 more spots after the 49ers. It's nothing to move up 4 or 5 spots to jump in front of them. So I do see the 49ers pick is in.
The pick is in for the San Francisco 49ers, and I am going to let my esteemed colleague, Eric Crocker, break the news and announce the pick as soon as he sees it. I already know what it is. A lot of folks in the chat know what it is for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, man.
At 31 in the 2024 NFL draft. And
I hate that I'm the last person that knows. I'm still waiting. It's a commercial break still, or whatever it is. What is this, Jeopardy? That's not even the Jeopardy guy I grew up watching.
You got satellite TV or something, Croc? You got one of those big old satellite dishes in your backyard or something?
No, I think if I had a satellite, I think I'd be on par with everyone else. I have Comcast Xfinity. It's supposed to be cable. You go from the wall to the box to the TV, and you're good. And now I think a lot of these things are going to streaming. So even with Comcast Xfinity, it's streaming. So I'm behind. I can't even do like live stuff with the 49ers watching the games because of this. I would be much better off if I had some kind of like big satellite dish or something.
So theoretically, Croc, before you know who the player is, can you tell me what in the big picture, zoomed out, what's a San Francisco 49ers player right now? What kind of a difference should a San Francisco 49ers player be able to make? Like, what are they looking for?
I think they're looking for a guy that can immediately help this roster. Like right now, the 49ers there's not a lot of holes. There's not a lot of guys that are going to come in and start for this team. But can you have a role and can you start? And I feel like there's very few positions where you can actually start on this team. This is not 2017. It's not 2018, where you could just come in and you can play. But here we go. The pick is in. See if they I know that's how far behind I am, guys. I apologize.
That's all right. Let us know, Croc, when you see it. Here we go. Pick is in for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2024.
They even got the guy that wears the helmet, the ring on his head. He's there. He's everywhere. All right. with the 31st overall pick in the NFL draft, 49 select. You know what that tells me, guys? Do y'all know what that tells me, guys? Brandon Aiyuk's out of here.
Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of the University of Florida, is the pick for the San Francisco 49ers at 31 in the 2024 NFL draft. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked by this one.
So I talked about earlier, I had a mock draft, right? First round, I had the 49ers take the offensive tackle,
Yeah, Jordan Morgan.
Do you remember who I took second round?
You took wide receiver out of the University of Florida, Ricky Pearsall, in the place he should be drafted in round 2.
Well, that was where they allowed me to take Ricky Pearsall in the mock draft. Maybe NFL felt different around him. I mean, he's a guy who has solid size. He ran very well. What was it? 4.41, I believe he ran.
Yep.
He was a playmaker at Florida. I thought he was terrific at the top of routes. I felt like he was a guy that Kyle Shanahan would really like. He was one of the highest. He had like the third fastest, like 3-cone L drill. So that matched up. There were a lot of things that I felt like Kyle Shanahan would like about him. Now, spending the first round pick on him, I didn't quite see that because you do have the offensive line that people are, trying to improve on. My brother's calling me right now. My brother Donald, he's a Florida fan. So he's calling me because he must have just seen the pick. He must be as late and behind as I am. But as far as why I said, this must mean Brandon Aiyuk is traded. I'm not saying he's traded because they drafted Ricky Pearsall. I just know the last time I felt like they did this was 2018 when they drafted Mike McGlinchey. And they had McGlinchey, they had Trent Brown, and we were all confused because you got Trent Brown. Why would you draft McGlinchey 9th overall? And then the next day, a trade happened.
Yep. So, overnight. Like we might get that news overnight about a Brandon Aiyuk trade. And there's some crossover in their skill sets, right, Croc, with Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Aiyuk potentially, and how they play the game and what position they would play for the San Francisco 49ers, maybe an X wide receiver. So Ricky Pearsall, 6'1", 189 pounds at the combine. He ran the 40 in 4.41 seconds. He had a lightning 10-yard split of 149, 42-inch vertical jump. I mean, he blew up the combine. He had a 6.64 3-cone. He had a 4.05 short shuttle, and even threw in 17 bench press reps. And Croc had the catch of the year, one-handed in traffic at the University of Florida, which no doubt Kyle Shanahan loved to see. I liked Ricky Pearsall. Thought he was a second-round guy all day. I probably wouldn't have been surprised if he went in a few picks very soon. But I am pretty shocked right now, Croc, that the 49ers went wide receiver, and it was Ricky Pearsall in the first round with the way this roster is, and who was still left on the board at this point at the end of round 1. Very, very interesting. And I agree with you, Croc, man. I think there's a very good chance that Brandon Aiyuk, we hear by some point Friday morning that he's been traded. Because
I would not be surprised.
Would have been made if somebody's not on the move.
There's a lot of fans that are upset with it. This is not a pick to be upset with. I think here's the thing. Here's what I think I'm seeing right now. Because when you think of a receiver, playmaker, good hands, routes, and how he fits, like all those things align. But why would people be upset? We tried to tell you guys, don't reach for offensive tackle. We told you guys this whole time. And every time we talked about a different position, we would talk about a receiver or we would talk about a corner or whatever it is. Stop talking about those guys. The 49ers need offensive line. That's what we heard a lot. And the 49ers told us right now, we have our entire starting offensive line coming back. And that doesn't mean that we don't want to improve on it. We just don't think anybody at 31 is the guy that's going to help us improve on our offensive line. So they went receiver with a guy that is very talented. Like, he's good. I compared him, and not just because they're white, or maybe because they're white. They just remind me of each other. Adam Thielen. Like, if Adam Thielen, prime Adam Thielen, not the Carolina Panther Adam Thielen, but Adam Thielen, if you watched him on Minnesota Vikings and you liked him, that's the type of receiver you're getting right now. Like, he's legit. He is legit. I just didn't know where he would go because I haven't paid attention to a whole lot of draft talk outside of you and I talking and kind of getting a feel for where people going. So I didn't know, he would go first round, but I mocked him to the 49ers in the second round in my draft my mock that I did on social media today. Like, this is not a guy that is not talented. Maybe drafted 14 spots earlier than you would expect.
Yeah, no, that's well put. That's a perfect way to put it, Croc, is I don't dislike Ricky Pearsall as a prospect, as a player. I liked players better that were still on the board, but Ricky Pearsall is a good player, a good wide receiver, and a good prospect. And rule number one in the NFL draft is to draft good players. I think the biggest surprise of it all is that I think it might speak to something else, as Damon brings up here, and I appreciate the super chat. Is it official that BA is gone to Washington? I don't know where BA might be going, but I think that's a whole lot more likely than it was 10 minutes ago that Brandon Aiyuk is going to be traded for them to take a wide receiver in round one here, and really not one that we saw coming. So, yeah, that's a fascinating pick to me, a really good player, and as long as they hit on him, it's fine, right? There was players I liked more than Ricky Pearsall, but Ricky Pearsall is a good player. And by the way, Croc, a player that I identified a long time ago that was a receiver that Kyle Shanahan was going to like. I did not expect him to draft him in the first round, but I put out a tweet, and let's see if I can even find it here. It might be the only time I've ever tweeted about Ricky Pearsall, so I'm just going to look up Pearsall because I want to find how I worded it, because this is the third time, Croc, that I've nailed a Kyle Shanahan wide receiver.
You did. You said it.
Whether or not I agreed or not, I'm pretty good at understanding receivers that Kyle Shanahan likes now. And let's see if I can find it here. This was my tweet on March 13th of this year. I nailed the Debo and Aiyuk as Shanahan wide receivers pre-draft. The three guys to look for in 2024, if they make it to late round 2, are Malachi Corley, Ladd McConkey, Ricky Pearsall. Those are the receivers I thought Kyle Shanahan would like. I just thought he was going to take him around later than he did. He liked him so much, he took him in round number 1.
Yeah, that's it.
He's got speed. He's got ball skills. He's got toughness. He's got okay size, 6'1", 190. But a pretty shocking pick, Croc, overall.
I think because now here's the thing. Right? Like, just either fans of football, we don't have the privilege of knowing where guys have these guys slotted. And what did John Lynch say? What did he say in the thing? We don't care where everybody else has a guy. If we like him, we draft him. Like, he just said that 2 days ago or yesterday, whenever that was, whenever he was speaking. He let us know, okay, we like Ricky Pearsall. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to draft him. I'm curious to see what this means for Brandon Aiyuk.
Croc, question in the chat. Do you have a NFL player comp for Ricky Pearsall? And while you think about that, I am going to read a tweet from Mike Silver about the San Francisco 49ers following that selection of Ricky Pearsall in round 1. Michael Silver, who's as plugged in as anybody, says, based on my conversations with other teams, the 49ers are now more likely to deal Debo Samuel than they are Brandon Aiyuk.
Wow.
Stay tuned. So maybe Debo back on the trade block for the 49ers unexpectedly. Something's going down. someone's getting traded before tomorrow morning. I really feel that way right now with this Ricky Pearsall selection. And Croc, of course, we're going to go deep dive on Ricky Pearsall. Those podcasts will be up on Locked On 49ers. Croc, we're about to go jump off this stream and go record an episode of Locked On 49ers. For everybody that's here with us, I'm going to put a link in so you can join us over there, and we can finish the Ricky Pearsall conversation over there. Did we finish the first round yet? Has there been a selection by the who was, I don't even remember who was, it was the Bill. Oh, so the Buffalo Bills have moved out again, Croc. The first round is now officially over. Buffalo Bills have moved out of pick 32 after already moving out of 28 to pick 32. And it was the Carolina Panthers who moved up one spot from 33 to get back into the end of the first round. And they drafted wide receiver Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, which Croc, apparently the Niners didn't like their 30 visit with Xavier Legette because they went ahead and drafted a different guy and drafted Ricky Pearsall instead.
Yeah, and if you would ask me, like, hey, who do you like more, Legette or Pearsall? I like Pearsall more.
Really, a more complete game.
And there were a lot of people that really liked Legette. I like Pearsall more.
People compared Legette to A.J. Brown. And while he's built like A.J. Brown, he plays more like DK Metcalf.
Here's the thing. When you're looking at these prospects, I always try to go off of how I feel in the moment while watching them. And A.J. Brown in his class was arguably 1, 2, or 3, like in that moment. So when you're saying, oh, he plays like A.J. Brown, okay, he could play like A.J. Brown kind of, but is he A.J. Brown? And as a prospect, and we're talking about as prospects, as a prospect, he was not A.J. Brown. Like, he was someone that it felt like you're not in that AJ. Now, he went earlier than A.J. Brown, but for whatever reason, receivers kind of slid. You had Hollywood Brown go, you had N'Keal Harry go, and then you had, Debo and AJ, and then eventually DK, which I had DK, Debo, AJ Brown all kind of lumped in. So, it's always interesting to see how the draft goes.
We won't talk about Hakeem Butler
or Riley Ridley.
Yeah.
But with those, with specifically Debo, DK, and AJ Brown, I remember what it felt like just watching them. And it's like, oh, these guys are different than these other guys. And when I watched Legette, I never got that feeling. So you can say, oh, he's kind of like these guys or whatever, but he's not AJ Brown as a prospect, even though he got drafted ahead of where AJ Brown went. At least in my opinion, on paper for me.
Ricky Pearsall, that's the pick for the San Francisco 49ers. And round one of the 2024 NFL draft is in the books. Some really good players still on the board that the 49ers could go get in round two. Make sure you tune in to Croc's channel tomorrow. I'm going to put the link right now in the chat for Croc's channel. And you can find it on youtube.com/@Crocky209, right, Croc?
Yep.
That's Croc's channel. We're going to be talking Niners on round two tomorrow there. And I'm also going to drop the link to Locked On 49ers, which we are about to leave this stream and go do that program right now. So please, everybody, follow us over to Locked On 49ers. More on Ricky Pearsall, more on the wild first round that we just witnessed in the 2024 NFL draft. Croc, I appreciate you jumping on. OT with BP. We went overtime for almost 3 hours here. Appreciate everybody who joined us in the live chat. Had a whole lot of fun. We're going to try to come up with some comps and envision how Ricky Pearsall fits in with the San Francisco 49ers in just a few minutes here on the Locked On 49ers podcast. So please join us over there. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel before you go, and then like and subscribe when you end up over at Locked On 49ers. Just give us a few minutes to set up, and we will be doing it up right there. Appreciate everybody going overtime with us here. OT with BP. Make sure you join us, Locked On 49ers. The link is right now in the chat, and we'll see you over there in just a few.